welcome to episode 36 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Graham Radding. If you have not listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week we looked at our first batch of games from issue 18 of Zapped 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were pleased by Parallax, licked by Iridis Alpha, and had our eyes roofed by Spiky Harold. This week we conclude our look at the games in October 1986, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens. Graham, shower us with the best Stygian and tell us what's coming up.
In this two-layer family circle biscuit tin selection of an episode, we grab our shiny helmets, paint our leather pants in fancy colours and go for a speedy motorbike ride in the zippy supercycle. We dig in our crappy toolkits for our special Yan hammers to smash the messy Miami Vice to pieces and unleash our inner Hoffs, talk to our cars and get angry at the utterly dreadful nightmare that is Knight Rider. We also explore the Toya-like confusing world of the dreary Hot Wheels, see if anything happens with the somewhat dull and overwhelming part-time security job simulator that is Hacker 2, and explore the world of 1920s filmmaking by attacking police officers and causing trouble in the bewildering Hollywood or bust. Should you find you've still a penchant for another malted milk biscuit, we also dive into the mole-based multicolour bridge-em-up puzzle world of Collapse, get a stinking headache and deja vu with the photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy nonsense of Arcana before finally having some faith restored, before being brutally torn to shreds by the demonic creatures that lie beyond the Forbidden Forest. I have given a name to my pain, and it is crappy licensed games.
Crom.
It's better not be Hager.
It's not. Well, the next game's not Hager. Some of them probably will be Hager that we look through today.
Bloody Hager.
Hager.
Bugger off with your Hager.
He was horrible, wasn't he? Hager the Horrible.
Bloody Hager.
Anyway, what we got first up? First up is an Epics game. So this section is all about the vehicles. We've got 4 vehicle-based games.
It is very vehicle-y, isn't it?
It's very vehicle-y, yes.
Vehicular,
it's very drivey.
I believe is the word.
Drivey.
Or drivey, yeah. Drivey.
Except this one's a bit ridey. This is Supercycle. Supercycle from Epics. This was $9.95 and this got a 95%. Ooh, it's a big score.
That is sizzling.
Yeah, it's a sizzler. So Epics have made another racing game here. This time, though, unlike the pit stops, it's got bikes. So it's a bike game. Supercycle, as you can guess. And this is more of an arcade racer in the spirit, and I say in the spirit, of Hang On. So if you played Hang On in the arcade by Sega and Yu Suzuki, you'll know that what to expect, really. This is a similar sort of thing. This had come out in the Hang On had come out in the arcades the year before. Yeah, similar. Anyway, but so it's Hang On. It's a bike racing game. You 3D track behind the bike, off you go. So before the game starts, you pick your bike colour from about 8 different colours, red, blue, greens, and the various shades of those you have on the Commodore 64, yeah. You pick the colour of your leathers and pick your leather style as well, which is quite nice. So none of this makes any difference apart from how the sprite looks when you're riding. So, so it's all cosmetic. But people do like their cosmetics these days, let's face it. And then that's it. So it's very arcadey. So it's off you go after that. But to make your way through 9 stages of high-speed biking action, interspersed with a couple of bonus tracks thrown in for good measure. So this is pure and simple an arcade racer. There's no two ways around it. It derives heavily from Hang On, as I said. But as arcade racers go, I think this is excellent. I think this is really good. I think the bike control... So visually, this is really nice. The sprites look good. They're much better than that other one with Speed King. The flickery madness of those. Obviously, Epics have some good track record in good visuals for the road, and there's no letting up here. The road is very, very nicely done. The 3D effect is excellent. The background visuals are very nice, so there are lots of them as well through the 9 stages. And off you go. So your bike controls pretty well. You have 3 gears to plow through to get up to about 140 mile per hour as the top speed. You accrue points the further you go and the faster you get through the 3 stages. So the whole point is it's like Hang On, you've got to go. It's a time trial basically. So you have a timer that's counting down. You've got to get to the end of the stage. When you get to the end of the stage, the next stage loads in and rinse and repeat. After stage 3, there is a bonus track where you have to it's a straight line, but you've just got to avoid the riders and go through the coloured flags for extra points. After that, you get another 6 stages, I think, to drive through before you get the final stage and then a final bonus stage. The controls for actually driving it, the steering left and right are quite nice because you can they seem a bit twitchy at first, but when you kind of get used to them, they allow a sort of almost a degree of analog control with the digital input, because you can leave your rider slightly leant over to go around the track. You don't have to keep so you've got sort of stages of lean, I think is the best way to describe it. You've got sort of slight lean, mid lean, and heavy lean, I'll call it. I think there's 3. So slight lean, if you leave it on there, will go round, the not so tight corners. Mid lean will go through, and tight lean if it's a very tight corner. And obviously, if you're going very fast, you need to lower your speed as you're going down to make sure you don't spin off the track on the other side. Hitting any obstacles on the side of the track in pole position style will explode your bike and make you fly off. Typical of that. You can bounce off other riders a little bit, but going too fast into them, we'll see again, you bounce off and explode. It is arcade to its core, and that's it uses that to its advantage, because it's a high score chaser like any arcade game. There are nice varied backdrops. It starts off with sort of nature, so trees and mountains in the background before proceeding to desert. You go through a city. There's variations of these as the games progress. You get obstacles on the actual track itself. There's a snow level, so there's snow on the road. There's oil spills in different parts. There are potholes and things like that, so hitting too many of them will cause you to fly off the bike. Everything looks really good. It's got a great sense of speed. It feels faster, even though you're not going quite as fast, but it actually does feel faster than Pit Stop 2. It's twice the size of Hang On as well, because Hang On was only 4 levels to get through. This has 9. And yes, you have to load each level, so it's not continuous like the arcade. It's still a pretty good take on it, I thought. There's a good couple of levels towards the end as well. One is sort of set at night with lightning going off, and there's a nice effect as you hear a little lightning going off in the background. And the last level has like a castle in the background, which you're sort of heading towards, which I thought was a bit of a nod to Outrun even. Yeah. The castle level towards the end of Outrun. Again, it's similar style to Outrun as well. So it's taking its nod from those kind of games rather than your Formula 1 games for Pit Stop 2 did. There's 3 levels of difficulty, which I think just lowers the time you've got to actually complete the levels. If you complete them, obviously you get some time bonus for the next one. And this is just a really solid, excellent racing game from Epix, doing what it does it's well presented, it's smooth, it's fast, it doesn't drop any frames, the graphics are good, the controls are good. It's Epix doing Epix, and they've decided to do a version of a Hang On for the Commodore 64. And for me, it ticks all the right boxes, and I was pleasantly surprised playing this. I don't really remember playing this much back then. I'm not sure whether I had it or whether I imagine I only had it on tape, so I imagine the loader was quite a bit of a pain, so it probably put me off. But playing it now via a disc version, much faster to load the levels in, the different bits, and with that ability, I found this really enjoyable. So, what about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. I thought this was, obviously, it's the Epix. Let's turn our attention to motorbikes, but let's apply arcade logic to it. So it does borrow heavily from Hang On and from Outrun and from that kind of arcade logic. Nothing wrong with that. So it's a dash for time as opposed to a race for place. And that's no bad thing. I think there was nice graphics. It was fast. I mean, you can't argue with the pace of this game. It's really nippy. The graphics are great. The fact that you can choose your kind of motorbike design is a nice touch. It's neither here nor there in terms of its gameplay, but it's actually a nice touch to add to something to make it feel a bit more like a personal journey. They're not jaw-dropping, the graphics, but they are fast enough. The track graphics are really, really good. It's a bit over-samey, so that but there's not going to be a lot of variation in a game where you're racing on a track essentially. But there's enough logic to make it apply. I liked the controls are difficult once you get to grips with them, a bit like Pit Stop. They've got the same physics as Pit Stop, I think, really, to some extent. So they're kind of that, and it's not floaty, but once you know you're going to hit a corner and you know how to control it and you control the speed of it, you're actually going to have a good time with this. The sound's a bit ear splitting.
Yeah, actually, I forgot to mention that, yes. Yeah,
it is,
right.
But it's a motorbike game, so it had the kind of the Pit Stoppy type of sound to it. And maybe it was missing a map, I think, because, maybe, but then again, Outrun doesn't have a map, so the arcade logic does apply to that. I quite like my time with it. I thought it was a really good, solid racing game. There's a lot of fun to be had with it. Graphics are good, sounds good, Epic's good people to make this. They've got a track record. They know what they're doing. It was playable. It was fun. You could alter the vehicles enough to make it sort of more personalised. What's not to like about that? At $9.95, decent price. I don't know if it was a different disc price. On disc, it would have certainly featured the Vorpal loader because it's Epix, which means it would have been super fast. I don't know that I ever played an original version of it, so it was probably cracked, but the Vorpal loader was a real nightmare to crack, I can tell you that from personal experience. So it's a very interesting game, and it is way better than anything else motorbike at the time. So I think it is a really good arcade playable motorbike racing game on the Commodore 64, and perhaps one of the best, because I don't remember there being a lot of them. Later, I know Super Hang-On is it that comes out. I think it does come out eventually, and a few others
Possibly,
that are out there.
maybe.
I think there's a few others, but I remember playing Super Cycle back then and having a good time with it, and when I replayed it, I remembered why. A decent Epix racer, well, they do these things pretty well, so I liked it. 95% was about right. Maybe it deserved gold, I think, maybe, because if it had had more stuff in there, maybe it would have got that. But either way, Sizzler's good for this as well. Good game, really good game. Definitely worth a download, definitely worth a replay. Gets my vote. Excellent stuff. Really enjoyed it. Really good. Really good.
Yeah. There's not much more to say about it. It's just a really good
really
racing
good.
game.
Really
It's
good
just
racing,
really good,
yeah.
really good arcade racer. And the 64 doesn't have that many with, think about your pole positions and things like that. There's not many.
No, and one thing I will say is the control of the speed in this game is actually really good. You actually feel like if you slow down for the bends, you are slowing down for the bends of the track, and it does actually facilitate you like it would on a motorbike. You can't hit a motorbike bend at 180 miles an hour and expect it to do anything but fly off. Gravity will throw you off. So,
Yep.
So when you slow down, and it's quick to be able to do that. The controls are the logic of the controls and the way you control it mean that you can do those things. It doesn't feel like a game where you can just career around at full speed and maybe hit something, maybe not. You can apply game logic and strategy to the way you control a motorbike, which means you can play this game and actually get quite far and get quite good at it. So a bit like the logic they applied to Pit Stop 2. Excellent, excellent. Just wanted to say that because I think in your mind you could be thinking, well, it's just like, it's a pole position pit stop game with a motorbike in it, but it's actually a lot more than that. So definitely go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. All right, there you go. Supercycle. We like Supercycle. I'm going to guess we're not going to like much else coming up in the next bit, but let's move on. Because the next one is another game. It's not totally car-based, although you spend a lot of your time in your car. And the next game is Miami Vice, Ocean's Port of the TV show Miami Vice. Graham, do you want to extol the virtues of Miami Vice?
How do you get this wrong? So, Miami Vice is a TV series based around two undercover cops, one called Crockett and one called Tubbs. And I want to say that their names are not necessarily that in that order. I think it's Sonny Crockett and Ricardo Tubbs. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Two undercover cops who just do, cop busting, drug busting stuff in the Miami-Dade police force. So the TV series is very much like that. Very famous TV series for its kind of MTV ethic, very style of a substance kind of thing. Lots of driving around in the Miami sunset with meaningful music on in my Ferrari as a police officer,
It's Michael Mann, isn't it?
Yeah, Michael Mann produced, and there's a whole slew of stuff online about Miami Vice. So this is the game based on that. Now, the TV series is very glamorous. It's based in Miami with all these amazing looking, people, women, men, good looking place, loads of, hot summer nights and Miami nights and all of the stuff that you could have leaned on to make a game from. None of that is apparent in this travesty, really. So my first comment was, this is horrible.
Matt says, what the hell?
So what you end up with in the Commodore 64 variant of this is a top-down orthographic view, scrolly car game and I've not seen the likes of this really since Give My Regards to Broad Street, which is what it horribly reminded me of, and that made me have nightmares.
I've put that in mine as well. That's what I've put.
So you control this car around the streets of Miami, and the idea of the game is that in actuality there's a drug baron gangster called Mr. J, and the idea is you go undercover and try and find out information about the various deals and things that are going on, pick up information from the various sleazes and drug dealers and, all sorts of people that are in the area, the casino, bad dudes, find out the information so that you can take down Mr. J. I'm not exactly sure how you take him down because I never got that far, but apparently this is what you do. So you can get involved in shootouts. Apparently I never did. I just drove around the streets of Miami in a kind of top-down view in I want to say sports car, but it looked like a shoe. Sort of driving around with a badly controlled vehicle with... Now, on the yin side is that we say Martin Galway can provide amazing auditory stimuli to the games. I think this is perhaps Martin Galway at his worst. It's a version of the Miami Vice soundtrack, and it's not horrible. It's just not very good by his standard. So it adds some weight, because the start of this game is really inexplicable. It's just kind of flashing border.
I think our version of this was not the. I think it's someone's freeze framed it or something. So I don't think we got the proper start.
Well, no, because I YouTubed it, and that was the start in the YouTube video.
Oh, was it? Maybe they were playing the same rip then. I don't know. Surely it can't be. That can't start like that.
Well, I don't doubt that it might, because if I thought that if it went to some kind of really great quality game after you'd started from just this weird screen, and essentially you start driving around the city in order to find these various different people and get information from them. But I just ended up driving around the city, not really doing much of anything. I actually found driving around the city in the game New York was better than this, and that's saying something, because New York wasn't great. So it's just top-down, car scrolly crazy. I don't know how you get a license for something like Miami Vice and make it wrong. My only thought is that they didn't do it wrong, they just didn't care, and that worries me a bit, because there's a bit of a theme developing for some of these ocean games where they don't care about the license, just put it out because there's enough Miami Vice fans out there to buy it. They kind of did the same thing with V, kind of doing the same thing with Highlander. Miami Vice is kind of no different. There's no passion or thought or care about the TV show, the themes of the TV show, or anything else. This could have been the C64 version of Narc, for example. They could have done that, not necessarily the Narc, missiling clowns, but it could have been a two-player version of a Narc, side-scrolling, shoot 'em up, Green Beret for two players, shooting your way through the streets of Miami, drug dealers. It could have been that. It could have done that. Instead, they go for this weird car thing, and I just thought it was crap. Utter crap. And I remembered the music more than I remembered the game, and even then, when I re-listened to this, I just remember thinking that the music was about the best thing you could hope, and it wasn't great. This just feels like a complete lack of due care and attention to anything that was to do with Miami Vice, which was a good TV series, very stylized but good. So this was a cash grab promotion, and it's a very, 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 it's a precedent that seems to be becoming more common with them, and that concerns me a little, because this has no care or attention for anything. What did you think?
No, it's terrible. It's the same as you. Pointless license leads to, it should never have been licensed. It doesn't lend itself to an 8-bit game.
No, it doesn't.
I think it's the general thing. But I mean, everything was up for licensing back then, and it was just grab stuff, and then think about what we can do afterwards. So this was developed by somebody called Canvas. The only other game that Canvas made, according to Lemon 64, is Roadrunner, in a year later. And that's the same with that we saw with V, which was Chaos, and they made that Super Bowl game, and then nothing else seemingly. So I think there's something going on that they get these licenses, and then they just give it to somebody and go, "Oh, make something," and they have these knockoff, whoever these people are, I have no idea, but there's no care or attention. It's just make something. Make something based on Miami Vice. Well, what's Miami Vice? Driving around Miami and trying to do drugs. How do we do that on 8-bit? Well, I don't know. We've been paid some money. Let's do it. So the worst thing is that this reminded me of, give my regards to Broad Street, as you said, but it also that your car was the same car that was in the last V8.
It was, yeah.
Because the slightest touch of grass made it blow up.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly the same as last V8. And so why does it just blow up on contact with anything? So I couldn't actually navigate the streets to get to any of the buildings that I was supposed to get to, because every time I turn, this is the other thing, every time I went to turn, the car sped up. And the turning arc was suddenly massive. Rather than me just trying to wedge around a corner, it just sped up and then ran me into grass and blew me up. It's just Miami not nice.
No.
Was my comment. It's just, this was rubbish. Visually, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's terrible visually. It looks, like you said, it does look like a shoe. It's not, I've seen worse. It's flick screen. It would have been nice if it was scrolling. That would have lent something to it.
That would have required programming skills.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. And the music's, like you said, it's okay. But as a game, this is such a misfire and such a pointless thing. Miami Vice is all about slow shots over the Miami sunset with them looking cool in their, suits rolled up to and suits rolled up to their elbows and everything like that. That was and cool, and all that music, that Jan Hammer music, and on the, in Miami sort of Bay and everything, and it was all that, and it was all and this is just nothing over nothing. It's not even style over substance. It's just crap over rubbish.
Yeah.
So bad. Yeah, bad. Bad. I didn't like this.
Yep.
I gave you Miami Vice though because I thought I'd take the next one, which
feel for you.
Inexplicably is worse.
It's and shockingly worse, I think.
It's shockingly worse.
This actually hurt me. This hurt.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So another licensed ocean game about a car. This is Knight Rider. So Knight Rider, what's Knight Rider? Well, this is $8.95. It's got 16%. So all right. So you remember Knight Rider, don't you? You all remember Knight Rider. The cool adventures of Michael Knight and his intelligent talking car Kit being sent on missions by Devon and Bonnie, who was strangely, I read that was mysteriously replaced by April in season 2. She was brought back in she was brought back though in seasons 3 and 4 due to fan demand.
She was.
And also at the request of David Hasselhoff.
She was.
Anyway, he would travel to places with handily placed ramps allowed Kit to soar through the air in turbo mode and Michael to punch people with not a care in the world. You remember Knight Rider. It was cool. It was great. Everybody loved Knight Rider for the first few seasons. Great soundtrack. Stylistic, great. That the car looked amazing with the across the front. It was funny. It was just a landmark show that everybody loved. Well, the problem is that the people who made this game don't know that show at all in any way because there's nothing of that show in this game that I can make out. Nothing. The iconic. I mean, how hard is it to get the iconic red thing in there somewhere? God damn it! Why is that not in? Like you, this game angered me because I have a soft spot. I know it's rubbish. You go back and you look at it and it's not great.
Hey,
but I have a soft. It's of its time, shall we say? And I have a soft spot for Knight Rider though. And I for them to release this in the midst of Knight Rider fever, as it was, is just to them America's like because Knight Rider was always set in and around Los Angeles. I'm presuming that's where they filmed it. So it's green. It's lots of nice landscapes, and as Michael drives through them, this America is a grey hellhole, policed by unending helicopters, and all the roads have been painted grey and blue. And buildings are patrolled by people for no reason that I could make out. And you're just told to travel across long stretches of America for no reason. This game is garbage. I don't even really want to describe it, but the crux of this is you get 4 options at the beginning. One is assassinate the Soviet president or something. Mm-hmm. Another one is save someone. There's 4. Whatever you pick, essentially you get a map of America. You pick a place to drive to, kind of like Great American Cross Country Road Race, but horribly worse. You then get this section where you drive along a grey wasteland while helicopters attack you. Now you can choose to shoot them or drive. If you choose to shoot them, then it didn't drive. It just stayed still. I couldn't get it to move. I don't know what I was doing wrong. If you choose to drive, it shoots them every now and again. But it doesn't matter because you're never under any damage. There's no threat because you'll get to you'll slowly, boringly get to your destination. Then you have to patrol the building and get through it. And if you get seen, it's game over. Everything is about this is terrible. The concept is bad. It plays bad. It's a real stinker for all the reasons that this could have actually been a decent driving game, crime-solving, something kind of game. And it actually made me feel bad playing this. Yeah, I didn't like it. What about you?
No, same. I thought this was a shite rider.
I was trying to think of a pun.
It's shocking.
trying.
It's shocking. My first comment was, holy shitballs, what is this thing? So, it's just rubbish. This was 16 months in development.
Was it?
Yeah, according to the Zapped review and the consensus. So this was, I think that 16 months of development hell. I think what it is has been battered around. Nobody really knew what to do with it. I think it's a piss take, this game, for $8.95. It's absolutely dreadful. I mean, we've said this about other licensed games, and I'm immediately just thinking about the last one I thought about, aside from Miami Vice, which was Danger Mouse. And I know, obviously, the worlds apart, but you know what? What you were talking about is a fully fleshed out, licensed world with characters, design, plots, music, look and feel, tonality, graphics, in the sense that you've got things you can base the game upon, and all of that stuff. And it's just completely missing from this. The fact that it doesn't feature Kit in anything other than a kind of crappy driver view, which is awful. That sequence where you're driving is so bad. It's just crap.
Yep.
So it's just when licenses go wrong, this is what you get. So I don't get how it went wrong, but it went wrong. So you end up with, and it takes a lot to beat how bad V ended up, but this is worse than V. So, and I think even Kit would literally come out back from the dead and go, Michael, please make sure that game never gets released, Michael, because it's utter shit. It's just crap. So there's a plot about Devon, the character Devon, discovering a terrorist group. And like you said, you can sort of, you've got missions to complete. You have to drive to each mission. You get out the car and you can look around locations. And it doesn't matter what all of that is because it's just rubbish. What it isn't is Michael Knight driving a futuristic car, avoiding enemies. I mean, even if you just did Spy Hunter and put the Pontiac Firebird-looking car out of Knight Rider in this, it would have been better to do that than try this monstrosity and try and make something into this. So I think this was something that had been badly unfinished and really unreleasable. It hit the deadline and they'd done, you know what, just release it because somebody will buy it. It is utterly dreadful. The fact that this is an Ocean license, it's because they were licensing everything at this point, shows me that maybe they just simply overwhelmed themselves with licenses of really good licensed products. I don't know how much interaction they had with the producers of that show. So Glenn A. Larson's production company. I can't imagine that they would have taken it lightly to produce a game version of this. And I can't imagine there's a world where they haven't provided them with images that would stimulate the design of the classic image of the kit car, Pontiac Firebird with the flashing left to right red thing at the front, even if it's the interior of the car with the kit talking and the flashing kit sort of lights that came on.
Yep.
Everything, the fact that this game doesn't feature a button to do proper turbo mode and all the things that made Knight Rider a really great show. Yeah. Yeah. If you think about it, right, Knight Rider came out in 1982. Knight Rider is a superpowered car that drives into the back of a lorry and can have additional superpowers added to it and chases down bad guys. That is Spy Hunter. They could have they should have just made this. Why didn't they just think, you know what, let's do a variation of Spy Hunter, maybe up the ante, put the other bits in it, but travelling from A to B could be Spy Hunter-esque. Why not do that? Just everything about it is crap. And it frustrated me. It frustrated me in all sorts of ways. I really like Knight Rider. I like a lot of those 80s shows, whether it's Knight Rider, Street Hawk, Automan to some extent, Manimal. I'm not even sure what that's about, but I quite like it anyway. But
is there a game of Manimal?
Airwolf, I'm not sure actually. Airwolf and some of those other strong licenses, and it's a battle of the big vehicle types, isn't it? Helicopter, car, motorbike. I don't think there was a famous train, but just all of this kind of stuff is all cool. Very 80s, very of its time, lots of great sounds and music to explore. This is a misfire and so heavy that I think 16% is generous. I would have given this a lot less because this is asking a lot of money. It's a rip-off. It's a rip-off that's playing on people's passion and likability of Knight Rider at the time. And I feel like as a company, Ocean were at this point taking the piss out of the people that were buying games out there. And they were rightly called out on this because, and if you think about it, this raft of games that are coming out, Knight Rider, Miami Vice, Highlander, none of these licenses are shouting great at you. They've all got problems. They're all kind of weak. It's terrible, really. They were just lapping up all the licenses and pumping out a load of crap. I think I haven't looked in the Ocean book, the Riding the Ocean Waves book, to sort of dive into what was going on at the time. I might do that to see if there's some rationale behind this nonsense, but Shite Rider is what it is, so avoid.
Yep. I'm going to 100% fully agree with that. It is dreadful. Dreadful. Yeah, that's Knight Rider. Don't play it, for God's sake. So we've got one more game to come up, and that is Hot Wheels. Graham, did you enjoy your time with Hot Wheels, or did you find it more sort of lukewarm dish?
No, just more race car nonsense. This was weird. This game.
Yes, yes, it was.
It didn't quite know what it wanted to be, did it? So it was a disc-only game. So it's a 15 quidder. So it's expensive-ish, but for a disc game, it's a disc game. And if it's Hot Wheels, and my memory of Hot Wheels was little Matchbox type cars on that kind of plastic track that could bend and loop and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And
you had
a
Hot Wheels.
like a little firing pistol at the start. You fired it, it went whiz around the track and way Hot Wheels. I'm not sure there was more to it than that, but that's my memory of it. This isn't anything to do with that. It's like kind of a weird customize your vehicle simulator at best, and not even a great one at that. So the game starts and you pick your vehicle from an array of vehicles, and then it goes through this weird customize it, but I think all you could really do at this point was spray it, and even then I couldn't quite do that, so I ended up leaving that screen, and I was presented with this side-scrolling awfulness where I'm scrolling around, and I think the idea at that point is to drive your car into the various bays, because you're driving, so it's literally side-scrolling with a vehicle side on. And then when you want to drive and sort of drive into any of the bays, it's just instantly, you push forward and you instantly sort of 3D, bam, in the sort of, perspective. Mm-hmm. So the perspective on the game is awful. And I think at that point, you're meant to sort of configure your vehicle and sort of do stuff to it. I don't quite know, because the town is in two parts, so there's an expressway where you can watch an animated version of your car do stuff. I didn't quite get what the idea of the game was. I wasn't sure if I was meant to be building a race car. I never got to race anything. I wasn't sure what the whole purpose of it was, so I just kind of drove around slowly trying to afford paint jobs. It was the equivalent of really bad C64 brain surgery, this game. It just it lacked any kind of placement. It removed brain cells as you were looking at it. And it looked crap. It was really old looking. It was launched in 1984, so that maybe explains a bit of that. My comment was just die. This game just needs to die. Die. Just stop, die. Instantly stop and die. It held nothing for me. All the things I felt about having Hot Wheels were eroded and destroyed by this slow paint your car simulator from what I could gather. I didn't get the idea that there was a big race behind this anyway, because I never encountered one, did you?
Well, I kind of did, and I kind of didn't. So I found this, I think what this is a toy car simulator. So it's a simulator of like doing different things, and there's various things you can do.
Push your car.
Demolition derby. Yeah, but like you, I couldn't make head nor tail of the customize your car section. I couldn't do anything, so I just drove the car out. Then if you drive up to any of the different points and you honk your horn, you can go do them. So I went up to the car wash and then just sat there for 5 minutes while my car went through a car wash. You don't do anything. You just sit there and watch. It's automatic. I'm like, this is a game. I don't know what this is. Then I managed to get onto the freeway, which drives you to another thing where there's some other things you can do. Again, it's all automatic. I drove back down the freeway, back the other way, found the demolition derby, went in there, and it was this awful top-down 4-car demolition derby. At that point, I turned it off. It seems an utterly pointless toy car simulator that is no worth to anyone. And I'm not sure who this was aimed at, because it's too frustrating and ultimately boring for kids, and it's just nothing to it for older teenagers at the time. And I've noted that I used to have loads of Matchbox cars. I had a big tub of them. And it's probably a lot of kids did back then. We all had all these kind of Matchbox cars of all kinds of stuff, which you just kind of pick up from either people giving you as presents, older siblings, all this kind of stuff. And I would rather have just played with them on my carpet than this nonsense.
Yeah.
And I often probably did. To me, this was like Knight Rider and Miami Vice, just another pointless license.
Yes.
Oh, it's digital. It's digital Hot Wheels. You're missing the entire point of Hot Wheels. As you said, it's Hot Wheels. It's Hot Wheels. They're supposed to go fast and crazy, and you're flinging them downstairs, and you build your track over stuff, and they go fast, and they fling through the smash cups and stuff, because that's what you did. And all the danger and everything, and all the excitement of putting them to go through things where you shouldn't, put them through, and all that kind of stuff as you build your tracks in place, and your mum comes down and is like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, nothing." "What are you doing with my precious crockery?" Nothing. It's holding up the track. It's important. It's all gone. It's all gone for this nonsense. So I didn't understand. I just didn't understand the point of this game. I couldn't get my head around it. And for 15 quid at disc only, Jesus Christ.
Rip off.
No. Nope.
Yeah. 5 1/4 inches of being bummed. No, thanks.
Sounds like my Saturday night.
That's true.
It really is. I actually play a bum.
Yeah, he does in a play.
Out on the street.
Yes.
Anyway, there we go. That's our first section of games. That's a real bumper crop of crap.
Yeah, Super Cycle was good.
Super Cycle was ace, but the other three are just licensed nightmares.
Yeah. Yep.
So on that note, I'm going to hand over to our sponsor. We're going to say something about sponsor, and we'll be back in a brief moment with film and TV for October 1986. Thanks to our sponsor, davidhearnwriter.com, where you'll find stories influenced by classic games from the Commodore 64 and Amiga. His next book, Escape from the Commodore 64, is coming soon. When Sarah finds herself pulled into the old computer and zapped aboard a space freighter full of droids just waiting to be blasted or influenced, can she stay alive long enough to beat the game for real? Or will it be a case of transmission terminated? Sounds like she's not paranoid to think these paradroids are after her. Visit davidhearnwriter.com, that's David, Hearne, writer.com, to find out loads and loads and loads more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Welcome back. We are back. It is film and TV for October 1986. It cannot be stopped. It's coming. It will not be stopped.
It probably should be stopped.
I don't know. 12th of October should have been. Right, what's going on in TV? Let's get into this. 4th of October, the BBC One aired the British television premiere of Dick Lowry's adventure film, Wet Gold.
Wet Gold. Pet House Video presents Wet Gold.
It's got a young Brooke Shields in it, so it's still getting a bit weird. It's a weird live-action mix of Goonies and Ratatouille-ish vibe. Yeah, it's some weird hunt for sunken treasure, isn't it? I'd never heard of it, so...
A waitress gets convinced that there's treasure in a sunken ship, so she just organises a team to go and find it, like you do. You know, waitresses all know deep-sea divers. It's just stupid film.
Yeah.
I remember,
you ever heard of it?
I had heard of it, and I have seen it, but a long time ago, and possibly on the 4th of October 1986 is the last time I saw it, because I remember having a bit of a fascination about Brooke Shields, so maybe it was part of that. I couldn't honestly tell you if it was a legitimate fascination or I'm not sure.
Was it to do with no, not Castaway, was it? What was the
Yeah, she's in a film where she's on a desert island, isn't she? And what's it called? Brooke Shields on a desert island.
It's not Brooke Shields. That's not what it's called.
No.
It might be in your mind.
That's what I remember of it.
Oh, what's it called? It's not Castaway.
It's Hadaway. What is love?
Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon. Yeah. That's the one.
That's better than Hadaway. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Brooke Shields, yes. Very pretty girl.
Yeah, she was. 12th of October, god damn it, Every Loser Wins, performed by the actor Nick Berry, begins a 3-week run at the top of the UK singles chart after featuring in recent episodes of EastEnders. Talk about plugging it.
Oh,
the song was an instant hit on release and went on to win its writers an Ivor Novello.
Don't even go down that road, down the Ivor Novello causeway. I made my position clear on this anomalous ditty. I actually didn't realise how much, and I looked into this, how much airtime the BBC gave it on EastEnders, and it was a lot. Not only was it in episodes, but it was a key thematic feature of a storyline.
Was it?
Yeah, because Nick Berry was in a band in EastEnders, with which Sharon was, remember, and he wrote this song, and then he left the band, and then Curly Watts decided to produce it, and it became a big hit, and they ended up playing this song a lot. So, and he ends up singing it, I think, to Sharon or to somebody he's romantically interested in the show, and everyone was like, oh, it's that song that was really, every loser wins. It's like, just honestly, he just took a turd in a matchbox and gave it to her. It's the same difference.
Whose turd was it? If he took it, where did he take it from? Is it his own?
I don't know. Here, was it yours? I don't know.
Anyone can fall in love.
Especially if every loser can win, because that's the logic.
We seem obsessed with EastEnders and stupid. It's just all we can find.
I don't like this song. I don't like it. It won an Ivor Novello for its lyrics. It's incomprehensible. I don't know how that happened, but let me just reassure anyone that listens to this podcast that every loser does not win, but they do win if they're given corporate TV sponsorship and relentless airplay. There's a chance that a loser will win, and his name might have been Nick Berry. So, but in other patterns of life, losers don't win. A winner might lose, but a loser cannot overly win, because they wouldn't be a loser if they did. They'd be a winner, wouldn't they? No more now. Move on. I can feel myself getting kind of. It's triggering me. I'm getting triggered.
14th of October, BBC Two begins regular late afternoon programming by showing a film during the second half of the gap between the end of daytime on 2 and the start of the evening's programme.
The second half of the gap. Does that tell you that TV was just a inconsequential thing at the time? It's like, what are we going to put in the second half of the gap? What's in the first half of the gap? That surely is the most important part of the gap. If you're talking about gaps, the first half's very important.
Well, the thing is, if you're doing it in the second half of the gap, there's still a gap.
There is.
A gap is a gap.
A gap is a gap, yeah. Which side of the gap are you on?
Filling part of it still leaves a gap. Just a different size gap.
Yes.
It's like I've half filled that hole.
Yes.
But it's still a hole then, isn't it?
The second half of the gap. Mind the gap. You know what? You cannot... If you talk to millennials, recent millennials, my young son, you're probably yours, maybe. If you talk to them about... And then, by the way, you've only got their attention span for 8 seconds with this. If you talk to them about... you don't know how difficult you've got it because, we didn't live in a world where there's no internet, no this, no that, and that. And you try and talk to them and convince them of the whole idea of TV twitching off at certain times. They just go... They turn some dot matrix printers. The brains just go completely wrong. It's not something that they can comprehend. It makes no sense to them. There is not a world that they can imagine. They can't. It's impossible for them to imagine it. So I've tried and I've just watched that whole dot matrix printer. What are you doing? Oh my God, there's paper coming out your mouth. Okay, I'm going to get... It doesn't compute. Oh, okay, that's weird. You've never done that before. But they still claim to be bored, even now with all the crazy stuff they've got going on. Oh, it's bored. I'm like, really? What, between Netflix, Amazon Prime, all the various options you've got, games, Disney,
PC,
you're
Xbox,
bored,
PlayStation, Switch.
All right, you don't know what bored is. Let me tell you what bored is. Well, stop doing that. What's that say? Wow, okay, I'm not listening. It's clever how you do that. It is. So... I genuinely, you weren't born with that. How have you done that? It's interesting, isn't it? And BBC Two, I didn't watch a lot of BBC Two in October 1986.
Well, I can't say I did as well. I mean, I was at school,
Well,
so
you was always watching it. You always used to come to school. You had a BBC Two T-shirt. You were like, and in fact, your nickname was AD, and now on 2 mils.
That's just because I used to go to the toilet a lot.
But yeah, from the 14th of October, our world was decidedly gappy less.
Less gappy.
Less gappy because of the things that were either side of the gap.
Yeah. During the second half of the gap.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Is the one gap or are the 2 gaps with something in the middle anyway?
I don't know. It's all starting to sound horrible.
Yeah, anyway, 18th of October. This is equally as bizarre. Channel 4 starts weekend morning broadcasting, with weekend transmissions now beginning at around 9:25 a.m. Programming had previously started at 1 p.m. So they were still filling at a half a gap.
Yeah, but it's that whole at around 9:25. What time should we start at? I don't know. About 9:25, maybe
What time
9:30. What was on? I don't remember anything being on Channel 4 mornings because in the mornings at the weekends that was like Saturday morning kids TV, wasn't it? So I don't think I ever changed the channel. I actually sat and thought I never hit Channel 4 for maybe 7 years on a Saturday. I never hit that button. I didn't know what it did.
No, I never did
on our
either.
original TV, and we're going back to, if I was going back to 1986, I would possibly argue that the TV we had at the time would only have had an ITV2 button on it, because it had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV1, and ITV2, because it was a real old set. We had it changed, I think, in 19... It could have been a bit earlier than that, but I don't remember there being a Channel 4 button on it, and even if I did, I never pressed it. I say that, but there's been Red Triangle stuff on Friday night, so I was aware of Channel 4, because I was, clearly into my foreign movies and all the diverse content that was in those. But Saturday morning, what did they put on? What did Channel 4 show on?
But didn't you find it weird, though, that the Ferguson portables that we had, I always found it weird that they had 8 buttons.
They did, yes. They were.
They had eight channels, and like, what do you... Well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, then the Commodore 64 you plugged into one, and then the other 3. Well, you're hoping.
I think they were actually built by somebody from the future that knew the future.
Maybe, or maybe they were just sort of sold all across the world, and other places had more channels.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. Well, America did; they had more channels, but the Ferguson,
way more, didn't they?
Ferguson TVs, which were kind of, I think, almost handed out in the 80s to just everybody.
Yeah, they were.
I don't know anyone that didn't have some kind of Ferguson product. It was incredible.
Do you need a telly? Well, I was looking for here's a Ferguson. I have one.
Do you need a video recorder?
14-inch portable.
Here's a Ferguson Video Star. Is it any good? They're all good because everything is Ferguson. So
Ferguson is synonymous with good.
yeah, they are. I mean, later down the line, our Ferguson Video Star enormo player, because it was massive and it had features on it that made no sense to anybody. It had a ×2 button and a reverse record and weird stuff. Why would it have that?
Yeah, I remember the person who gave us ours sort of thing. He cut his finger and he bled gravy. It was really weird.
Like a Conal Cochrane's, one of his men.
So I never trusted that video recorder after he
As soon as you
bled
press play,
gravy
it was
on
like, how do you make it stop doing that? Alan?
Yeah, never trust salesmen who bleed gravy.
Do you know, here's a true fact, but it's not totally related to this. When we're talking about video recorders, prior to us having a VHS recorder, for a period of time, we don't talk about this very often, obviously, we had a V2000. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I do vaguely remember
with
the
tapes,
V2000s.
with the tapes, you could turn the tapes upside down. It was dual-sided. But like an audio cassette, you could take the V2000 tape out. The video recorder itself, the V2000, was massive. It was this enormous thing. It didn't last long. We had one for a very short period of time, and then we quickly got a VHS, because I remember we got it from a company called Vision Hire, and they were like, "Oh, it's the future of telly. It's this V2000 Philips, I think it was." V2000, yeah, amazing, yeah, reverse, and we went to the video shop, like, you got, Cannonball Run the V2000, it's like, the V what? Like, all right, we need to rethink this plan, Dad, because, nobody's heard of this stupid thing. Anyway, so we ended up getting an ordinary VHS after that, but, V2000.
Wise decision.
It was a wise decision.
I had a Betamax for a little while. Someone gave me one for free.
Well, that's the only way you'd have one, because I know Gary had one, didn't he? He was always big on his Betamax.
Well, that's because he was weird.
And everyone with the Betamax bored you with the quality conversation. Oh, the quality is much better on a Betamax. Just shut up. Your tapes are shit, and nobody rents them out properly, so go away.
You can only buy them from a chemist down Freeman Street.
If we're going to have a format war, all right, this is the equivalent of me having a samurai sword and you've got a plastic knife from a cracker, and I'm going to win this battle. I'm going to stab you with this metal sharpened sword, and your little puny cracker dagger is going to do nothing but maybe break the skin with a hard push.
Wouldn't need a hard push.
Thankfully, it never came down to battles to the death with our friends. I like to think that was where we were.
I had about 13 Quaaludes on the Quaaludes on the VHS.
On the VHS.
27th of October. 27th of look at me. 27th of October.
Ooh, Halloween.
BBC One starts a full daytime television service. It's going off this month. This is when they decided we need to put more TV into your brain eyes.
Yes.
Before today, excluding special events coverage, BBC One had closed down at times during weekday mornings and afternoons. I love that. I've closed down at times. Have we got anything for today? No,
it's the C3PO mentality, and I'm just going to close down for a while.
Yeah.
Switch back on, I need you now. Don't close down.
Trade test transmissions, and from May 83, pages from CFAX. Oh, the thrill.
That's not content. That's just text.
No, I know it ain't. It's just text on the screen. Unless it was Digitizer. Digitizer was good.
Yeah.
BBC Two also expands its programming hours, providing a full afternoon service for the first time. But it wasn't until the end of the decade that BBC Two was on air all day, every day.
That's crazy. It's at the end of the decade.
Well, it's weird that on the 14th of October, they started showing a film in the second half of the gap, and then by the end of October, they expanded its programming hours all day. It's like that gap didn't last very long.
But you know what? At this point, it'd be, and now on BBC Two, we're going to film a garden plant for 2 hours. Because they had no content. They had nothing. What they're going to put in that time? They didn't know what they were doing, did they? So all it was
true.
This is BBC Two. We've no idea what we're putting on now. It could be anything. Just tune in, because please do, because we've got to put something on. Here's a picture of a grape. It didn't know what they were doing.
But as part of the new service, here we go, Australian soap Neighbours makes its British television debut on BBC One a year after it's first aired in its homeland.
Neighbours.
No, Duff, no.
Good no, Duff.
Harold. So many great moments from Neighbours.
It's funny, actually. I put a link on our little show notes to the soap opera wiki page for Neighbours, and that's actually got the details of what happens in episode 1 in there, and the original cast. And what I actually wanted to go back and try and remember who was in the original episode, because obviously there was the Robinsons. It was basically 3 families, wasn't it? There was the Robinsons,
The Mangles.
The Mangles and the Charlene's family, whatever they were called. The
Minogues.
what was the surname of them? I don't know.
Robinsons.
No, because there was the Robinsons.
It was the Robinsons, the Mangles, and the
Charlene and Madge Bishop, not Madge Bishop, but she was Madge something before that, wasn't she? Anyway,
she married Harold.
Because there was Helen.
Harold.
Yes, Harold.
Daniels. It was Daniels.
Helen Daniels was in it. I don't know. So, but there's an interesting sort of cast in there originally, and instantly starts with somebody going round to somebody's house because they're trying to get them to turn the noise down for a stag party, and the stripper is one of the guy's wives, I think. I can't remember the details of it. I just remember reading it briefly and going, wow, that all happened in episode 1. No wonder it was popular.
That's different to Coronation Street.
I watched Neighbours later after this. I didn't tune in immediately. I started watching it when it started to get a little bit, when my teenage hormones started to kick in a little bit more, and there was kind of hot-looking Australian women in it. So, Kylie Minogue aside, there was what's her name? There was
Plain Jane
Superbrain. Yeah. Goodness me.
Which was Natalie Imbruglia.
Oh, no, it wasn't. No, she was in it later. No, Plain Jane Superbrain was Annie something other.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? Yes.
Again, as an interesting little segue, I was obviously in a demo group. We've talked about it many times. And one of the people I traded, and I don't know who this was, so please forgive me if you do listen to this. One of the people I traded demos and software with was in Australia. And I remember writing to them and sending them some discs and some wares, as you did when you were into that kind of thing, and asking them if he'd send me some pictures back of this girl from Neighbours, whose name escapes me now. And he sent me back all these really cool pictures and sexy photos and everything else in his package. I remember getting it and opening it and all these pictures sort of flying out in front of my mum and dad. And I was like, oh no. And they were like, what have you got? What have you sent it off for? I'm like, I haven't. And it was like really scanty pictures that he'd found of this woman in the various Australian press at the time. Nothing too racy, but as far as my mum and dad concerned, I'd been sent porn from Australia. They were like outraged. I was like, it's nothing like that. Look at the discs. I'm getting discs. Anyway, that quickly did dispel the idea that I was turning into some Australian loving pervert. They were like, actually, he's got discs. He's still a geek. Don't worry about it. There's no women in his immediate future. It's all good. So it's all interesting. But yeah, that genuinely did happen. And I can't remember that woman's name, but I remember Plain Jane Superbrain. I remember Gary also being a big fan of her as well, by the way. If you listen to this, Gary, which you may or may not do, we know what you did about that. We know. Yeah, we've seen. We're not going to say it. We don't need to talk about it. We know exactly what happened, and that's why your right hand became very powerful and dominant in your life.
I talk about it with my therapist to this day.
Yes, exactly. There's nightmares that can be had about even the very idea of that.
Anyway, 29th of October was The Equalizer, a US crime drama series starring Edward Woodward, makes its British television debut on ITV.
Oh, this show. Man, did you watch this a lot?
Yeah. My mum, my brother used to. They used to have all this. They used to lap this American stuff up, so I would watch it as well because it would be putting off going to bed.
Yeah.
Age 14.
I don't know what time it was on. It was about bedtime, wasn't it?
It was 9 o'clock. It was a 9 o'clock show.
Yeah. So it's post-Watershed, yeah, because it was kind of half violent. Do you remember much about the show? Do you remember much about it?
It was essentially sort of more. It was like a one-man A-team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Essentially, because he would get hired, or he would go help out people who would get menaced in lifts. I seem to remember from the title sequence.
That's I remember. I don't know why.
It's always the bit everyone remembers. So the people would get menaced, and they would have some problems. And like the A-team, if you could find him, you would ask him to help out, and he would be this aging English dude who would talk in English at them and be a bit threatening and not really do much, and then would sort of do. I think he would beat people up every now and again, but not very well. I don't really much remember, but that's my overriding memory of it. Yeah, and then they were always in a lift getting menaced.
So that's my memory of it. So there's bits that I remember quite distinctly. Obviously, I remember, like everyone remembers, the lift. I remember the Jaguar XJ6, in the sort of the and the smoke screen, the smoke with the headlights, and him sat on the bonnet of his car.
Wasn't he ex-British Secret Service or something, or MI5? Or
I hope so, because it's Edward Woodward. I think previous to that, I think I'd watched him in the Wicker Man getting burned alive at the stake as Sergeant Howie. So he didn't strike me as like a real tough guy. He was kind of. It was a bit weird, and he advertised in the kind of personal ads, didn't he? It's like, you need a problem solving. I'm the guy that solves problems. So I remember it for a couple of reasons. I remember the opening sequence and the bit in the lift. I don't remember much about what happens in the show other than he, like you say, he's hired to correct problems, A-Team style.
Let's Wikipedia says it starred Edward Woodward as Robert McCall, a former covert operations officer at an unnamed US government intelligence organization, which was often referred to simply as the agency or the company, who tried to atone for his past by offering, usually free of charge, his services as a troubleshooter, protector, and investigator. People in need found him through a newspaper classified ad. Got a problem? Odds against you? Call the Equalizer. Blah, blah, blah. When he began the business in the pilot episode, the nickname Equalizer revealed is bestowed on him by an operative named Brahms, who was played by Jerry Stiller. There you go. He had loads of mysterious contacts going, thinking he would go up against delivering justice upon bullies, corrupt police and politicians,
gang lords and
mobsters, rapists, racists, murderers, kidnappers, drug dealers, and other truly deserving people.
And a
Please do not do
partridge
anything
in
you
a
will never
pear
live to regret.
tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's what it was. It was essentially a one-man A-team.
He was. And so that is, I remember the thematics. I remember the music. Stuart Copeland did the music, didn't he? The drummer from The Police.
Yes, he did, yes.
Doing the music.
Yeah.
I have vague memories of him writing wrongs. No idea what the wrongs were that he righted. But I do remember the CompuNet demo of the intro sequence on the 64, which was done in 1986, so we're going way, way back, which featured in the pages of Zapped in their CompuNet. Famously, it had the image of the Equalizer, that car image with the lights and the headlights. We'll put a link on the show notes. I've actually put a link to the YouTube video that's out there, and you can actually download the demo and try it on your own thing if you want to.
There you go. I posted the picture for you.
Yeah, there it is. So that image, that shadowy figure in front of his Jaguar, that was replicated on the Commodore 64 in a very famous image, and that you can download that demo and try it out for yourself. But that's my memories of it. The TV show itself, it was the buffer. It was one of those. It was like the professionals before it. It was like, I just want to watch the Equalizer. No, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yay! Yeah. But Edward Woodward's a weird choice. I mean, his name's stupid anyway. But Edward Woodward is dead now, and he is definitely dead. Was a weird choice to play the Equalizer.
Well, he got burnt in a giant effigy.
Well, he did. Yes, he famously went on a little holiday to Summer Isle,
Northern Scotland.
fell foul of the villagers, went around accusing them of all sorts of stuff, didn't get into their kind of, into village antics, let's just call it that, made a big fuss, accused a few people of doing a few things, and in classic Aliens tradition, a few deaths were involved. I'm mainly.
Shocked.
He was it a Cyberdyne system? Yes, it was a Model 122. No,
Yeah.
joking.
Well, he always was a bit twitchy.
He was he's very twitchy in The Wicker Man.
There you go.
Deliberately wore a police uniform 2 sizes too small for him to make him look stiff, which is not something anyone ever wants to say about anything. Anyway, moving on.
That's what I do with my pants.
Yes, that's how I wear my trousers. 2 sizes too small.
But only on Blue Pant Day.
Yeah, I like to make myself look stiff. Strong. Yeah. Moving on. Anyway, what films were out?
I mean robust.
Robust.
What films were out? That's your TV. What films were out? Well, there's a big one, she said. 3rd of October. Top Gun.
Yes.
Okay,
Top Gun.
so it's going to be the big one for this month, isn't it? Let's face it. Top Gun comes out on the 3rd of October. Now, I went to see Top Gun at the cinema on the Thursday night before opening through getting free tickets through The Sun. They did a big thing about it, and that cinema was rammed. It was packed. It was just jam packed with people who got free tickets
women?
from The Sun. It could well have been. I was just there to see Tom Cruise, man. And Goose in a platonic relationship.
Yeah, totally platonic. And never will
Iceman.
anyone say anything about that again.
And Iceman and all kinds of other stuff. So I saw that at the cinema, as you do, and it was. I just remember I think most of my friends from school and everything were going, so it's like a big school night out. So it was just one of those things, and I remember just sitting at the back and woo,
you had some of the friends I did. They tortured me with that film. From the minute they were, some of the people that we know, mutual friends to some extent, who went to see that film.
How did they torture you with it?
Because after they watched that film, they changed. They went from being just the people that talked about stuff to people that talked about aeroplanes constantly. And they'd go on cycle tours to Binbrook Airfield, which was a local RAF base.
Okay.
And they even referred to each other as Iceman and Maverick. And I was like, just remember hearing them talk and going, I have never normally wished you to be run over by anything. But if you don't stop talking, I swear, I'm wanting a lorry to hit you. They just never shut up about this film. I mean, don't get me wrong, Top Gun's a great film. I think I've actually warmed to Top Gun over the years. Actually, yeah, it's not a great film.
I've cooled to it massively.
Well, it's not a great film. It's just a film about...
It's influential, I agree.
Yeah, and it's a film heavily of its time. And so there's it's a totally high concept, not a lot of plot, lots of music video-y stuff, very influenced by the media around it. And it's a package of stuff put together, a package of star, music, high-octane aeroplane footage, mixed into a plot that basically is nothing whatsoever. And it's just that. And, it's the Rocky IV equivalent of an aeroplane movie. It means nothing. It doesn't really have much to say. It's just a bit stupid.
Yeah, it's high concept nonsense for the mid-80s. It's more montage than beach volleyball.
Totally.
And it's a vehicle to sell merchandise and songs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fine. It's an advert for stuff, and that's fine. That's what it is. And it's to say that if this isn't a Citizen Kane, this isn't some great plot, complex plot. Guy flies airplane doesn't fly so well. Friend dies in airplane. Man falls in love with woman doesn't quite like man flies airplane again, has a kind of a problem. The airplane becomes good, fights off the bad guys for no reason. For some reason, the Russians try to invade in a weird twist that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's a bit weird at the end, that bit.
Well, it's because it is literally the last 10 minutes ago. The Russians are invading. Beep, 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 fire missiles. No repercussions.
I think it's more about, have you actually remembered that we're supposed to be fighting the Russians at the moment? No, this film's not about that. We're fighting the Russians at the moment. Have you not seen Rocky 4?
Yeah, they're just...
Oh. Damn.
Okay. And it was about check out the technology on that. Now these are amazing aircraft. Look out, Russia, with your MiG, whatever that means, your inferior MiG technology. We've got these F-14, F-15 Tomahawk, whatever the hell they were. And I should know more because the school friends that I alluded to earlier never stopped banging on about the stupid names of these aircraft.
Yeah, but you just stop listening at some point, don't you? Yeah, you're like, I'm not listening to you anymore because
it's an F-14 Tomcat.
Who cares?
Is it? What's that sound? Oh, that's you falling off a cliff as I push you now. So
fly now.
Yeah, fly. How's that sound? That's what a Tomahawk sounds. Not Tomahawk. See, I should have listened.
Yeah.
Anyway, long and short of it is, not a great film in any respect, really. Stupid. Lots of high-fiving American good-looking guys high-fiving each other and bum-slapping each other in the showers, and probably stuff that later down the line we might look on as more suspicious than we did at the time. Doesn't matter. Long and the short of it was very influential in terms of the way it presented itself. This was just a big advert, and it was made by a guy that made adverts. So he knew exactly how to make an advert because he'd filmed the Saab Advert, which featured a Saab Viggen, which is the aircraft in that. Now, I only know that because of the bloody people lying about with who was into this stupid film. So, and because he made
remember.
That, I do remember, yeah, because I really remember the advert where there's the Saab car and the airplanes going along after it. And because he did that, and I'm sure there's a whole series of things that happened. I remember it more by reading the book High Concept, which is the autobiography or biography, which is the one when they're dead. Either way,
it'd be a biography. You can't write an autobiography.
I was going to say the biography of Don Simpson, who was one of the co-producers, because there's Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. Don Simpson famously sadly died from an overdose of Hollywood. This is in his life story.
What you kids are calling it on the street these days?
He just, he lived the life of a famous Hollywood producer, and everything that you can imagine the debauched life of a Hollywood producer is, he did, and it eventually killed him. And Top Gun is one of the films that features heavily in that book. I would recommend anyone that wants to really know on how both Top Gun and Days of Thunder were actually made, read that book.
Days of Thunder's a joke.
Well, Days of Thunder will come to that as well, because that comes after this. So at some point we'll talk about Days of Thunder, but it's just the car equivalent of Top Gun anyway. I actually like Top Gun for different reasons, not because of the story, the film, or anything else. The film's neither here nor there. The soundtrack for Top Gun and the thematic and the way it looks and the way it plays out is very 80s, but very interesting, and I quite like it for that. And the music is ace. I love the soundtrack to Top Gun. So
yeah, no, that's all,
really
that's all fair points.
We can't all forget, and the one thing I would say is that there's the famous beach volleyball scene in Top Gun. We all, there's an entire Quentin Tarantino speech about it. Just, go and Google that, and if you really want to get another reading of the film, go and listen to Quentin Tarantino's entire dialogue about how he feels about the Top Gun movie. Mercifully, the only thing I can say is that the friends that I was hanging around with at school who were into this film never reenacted that scene, because it would have been horrific. There'd have been little teenage man boobs and pasty skin and flobby flesh flobbing about trying to do beach volleyball. Nothing like hanging out with the boys in the film. It would have been embarrassing to the point when it would have just been t-shirt tans. So no, thank God.
5th of October The Frog Prince. So if you didn't fancy any plays, you could have gone and see The Frog Prince.
Yeah, like anyone saw that when that came out.
No one did. It was in this.
Dad, can we go and see The Frog Prince? No, we're going to see Top Gun. But that interesting airplanes you are now.
Yeah, Helen Hunt was in it, and John Paragon as the Frog Prince.
It's animation, isn't it? Yeah, is that the one with Vincent Price in it?
I don't know. It's not animation.
I'm thinking Basil. I'm thinking Basil. Basil the Great Master.
It's got prosthetics, disturbing prosthetics.
The Grimm fairy tales are all really peculiar in my book.
Yeah.
So, really weird, that one.
Anyway, 10th of October, Basil the Great Mouse Detective.
That's got Vincent Price in it, but forgettable.
Yeah, just one of the voices in it. Yeah,
that is a Disney film, but it's completely forgettable.
It is. I've completely forgotten about it.
Totally, yeah.
Completely. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, came out on the 17th of October. So,
do you remember much about the second one?
Yeah, it's Freddy's Revenge, isn't it? Sort of thing. So it's the one where the tongue comes out the phone. Is the bit I remember.
Yeah,
it's like the person's on the phone. He's blah, blah, and it's like comes out.
Because it carries on from the first one.
Kind of. It's the guy, and I remember the bit where Freddie sort of crawls out of him. He rips him apart from the inside.
That's right. Yeah.
I seem to remember that.
Possesses people by a swimming pool, as I remember it, and kills lots of people.
Yeah, it's more Freddie nonsense. I think it's more like the first one than the sequels would become as they head off into, Dream
Warriors
parody and all that kind of nonsense. And and also as well, the thing is with this is that they've already realised that because the main draw, obviously Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's kept in the dark, like kind of like the shark in Jaws and everything like that. Freddy's just a part of the film. They've already realised, with the subtitle Freddy's Revenge, that just like the first Friday the 13th was not about Jason Voorhees. Halloween was the shape is barely in it until we get to Halloween 2, and then it's more because it's obviously Carpenter, and Michael Myers becomes how can he go around, and this is following that same thing. This is not about nightmares, this is about Freddy, and I think this is where this one comes in. This is where that starts,
which is what was the divergent thing for Wes Craven to step away from the whole deal for some time, really.
Yeah, until he made the bloody awful New Nightmare or what it was, or Wes Craven's Final Nightmare. God, I watched that recently.
No.
Awful. No. Dreadful. But yeah, that's Nightmare on Elm Street. Legal Eagles was on the 24th of October. Yeah, Robert Redford, Deborah Winger, Daryl Hannah, directed by Ivan Reitman. You've put, it's a mid-80s sort of legal thriller.
Another high concept movie, throw the stars together. There'll be a song somewhere from Legal Eagles. We're Legal Eagles.
I think it's a bit more serious than
by
that.
Billy Cramden.
Redford.
Yeah, maybe. The cover of it
right.
doesn't shout that, but it maybe is. I don't know much about it.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it's quite as playful as the cover.
Well, Ivan Reitman's is famous for more comedic stuff, isn't he?
He is. I can't remember much of it, but just reading the plot, it sounds like it's a bit weird.
Yeah,
I think it's probably a film that's a bit mixed up.
Yes, I don't doubt.
Probably. And then on the 26th of October, there was Smart Money.
There was,
which I don't even know anything about. Do you know anything about that film?
Yeah, it's a BBC presentation, I think. I read the blurb and it sounded a bit like a mix between Tron, Last Starfighter and War Games.
I did look at this.
About hackers and stuff like that. It actually sounded pretty intriguing, and apparently the hacking scenes in it are actually pretty authentic hacking scenes. So I'd be interested to have another look at that. I might track that down and have a look at it, because those sort of films do intrigue me, and it wasn't one I remembered it more when I looked at the images and some of the stuff that was in it more than the name of it and anything else. But again, I probably haven't seen that since 1986.
The top review on IMDb doesn't sell it. It says 1 out of 10. This has got to be one of the most embarrassingly bad films I've ever seen. The director managed to turn out bad performances from every member of the cast, and the script was laughable. It was an effort to sit right through it. So, you enjoy that.
I'm going to watch that then. That sounds great.
Sold! I'm in there. All right, so there you go. Right, that's it. That's your TV and films for October 1986. There's not much to really say about it. Edward Woodward, Tom Cruise, Nick Berry, gaps. I don't know what else to say about it, really. Just weird stuff going on.
Yes.
The 80s were a strange time. We'll be back after this short message, where we will conclude our look at the games from October 1986 and have a few more Crapverts as well. So please stay with us.
Shout out to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find bargain books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Coming soon, Dave's next book, Escape from the Commodore 64, will take you back to the days of big hair, mixtapes, acid wash jeans, and Trivial Pursuit. Yes, it's the 80s again, as Sarah must find a way out of the bread bin with the help of her brother Reese. Though, if he leaves her in there, more Pop-Tarts for him. Decisions. Dave's podcast pick is Beyond the Forbidden Forest. Now, that was spooky. They don't make them like they used to, do they, Dave?
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
All right, welcome back. We're at our last set of games, and then some Crapverts, and then we are out of here. We're done. So let's get into this. So what's first? Hacker 2 is the sequel to last year's Hacker. That's what it is. So once again, we are in clandestine spy territory as we were in Hacker. But this is a very different game, and there's a lot to say about this, or maybe there isn't. I don't know. So there's a lot of quite in-depth mechanics to this, and there's a very challenging scenario that you have to work your way through that requires quite a lot of the player. So the plot of this is different. It's a very different game to the first Hacker. That saw you moving about on underground monorails, meeting people, weird sort of silhouette spies in various places around the world, and asking them if they knew stuff and trying to piece together this. To be fair, I can't really remember what the plot of that was, but this essentially that's what you were doing. In this one, Hacker 2, which is called the Doomsday Papers, some secret Doomsday Papers have been developed by the pesky Russians, always the pesky Russians, and it's your job to guide some robots through the building that they are located in and steal them so that the good old US of A can counteract them and keep the balance of world power in their favor. That's the politics, that's the game, it is what it is. So this game begins slightly similar. It asks you for a log on, similar to the first game, and then you have to go through a sequence where you have to identify parts of a video editing something system. Once you've identified all those and the buttons to control it, you're then presented with 4 screens and those buttons that you identified at the bottom. So you can view cameras throughout the building, you can record them, you can play them back, you can see where one of your robots is that you have to try and guide through the building, which is to find the documents. You can hack into the cameras and play them back in a loop. And I'm going to be honest here, this confused the hell out of me. and I don't know if this is any good or not, because I just literally had no idea what the hell I was supposed to be doing.
Sounds familiar.
I went online, I looked at the instructions, but I was overwhelmed reading them by the initialisms, and my brain just shut down. I was like, I can't take this in. I don't know what's going on here. There is probably a great game here, and I don't no doubt that it's very clever, and the guy who made this and made Hacker is clearly a very competent programmer and game designer, but it's too much for me. I can't. It just asks a bit too much of me at this point in time to sort of try and work my way into it. And the weird thing is, I remember playing Hacker back then. I have no memory of Hacker 2. None.
No.
So
same.
this was
Same.
when I saw this in the list, I was like, oh God, there was a Hacker 2, wasn't there? I completely forgot about this, completely. And when I played it, I thought, oh, maybe when I actually play it, I will actually remember. But no, nothing came back to me about this. So I don't think I ever actually played this. So I had nothing to go on, nothing to draw from, apart from coming at this fresh now. And it's just too much. I think if you probably got into this and you delved into its systems, because the effects are quite good. The use of the cameras and the flickery screens and trying to record them and everything about it is quite neat. And there's some special effects, but I just found it a little bit overwhelming, if I'm personally honest. And it simply wasn't for me. Did you get far into it? Did you get much from this?
No, I did enjoy the aesthetic and the idea of Hacker. And that the fact that it was it felt that you were hacking into something, and I think it had a little bit more of an in. This felt totally like it was, it was very difficult to get into. It overwhelmed me with acronyms and stuff and controls, and the idea of controlling these security cameras and looking for stuff and knowing what I was clicking on and the V log and this log and that log and do this and do that. There was so much to think about, and it was like that from immediately. It was like straight in, you're doing this stuff now. You got to sort out the vertical hold on these TV cameras and look for the various things that are happening in these screens. There was 36, was it, screens that you could choose to look around?
Yeah,
there was
a lot.
There was loads of stuff to think about, and I felt, yes, I get the idea that I'm controlling some kind of robot and I've got to infiltrate this sort of facility. yes, I'm looking for some secret, documents and all the rest of it. It didn't feel like that to me. It felt like I was looking for stuff on security cameras and not really knowing what I was looking for, how I would deal with it, what I was supposed to do, and where it would end up. So the game was wrapped in all of this, what sounded like an amazing plot, an amazing story, and amazing stuff to get into. What I was presented with was 4 screens that I could choose from between 36 without really knowing what I was meant to be doing with them, what I was meant to do if I saw anything in them, how it was really relating to anything I was controlling. Not that I felt like I had control of anything really, other than what screens I could look at. And I just got bored. I felt like it was just like a security camera simulator. I think the story didn't grab me and bring me into its world. I was just presented with stuff to do, and very sort of matter of fact. Here's the sort of security cameras. You know what to do with security cameras. Just look for stuff. And I needed more than that. It didn't bring me into the game enough. Hacker brought me into the game by sort of starting with text and things appearing and dialogue and discussion, and and I could work my way into that. I don't know if perseverance might have helped with this. I was playing this for quite some time, and I was just presented with the same thing for about an hour, and it just kind of switched me off. I thought, if I want to play a hacker game I never finished Hacker, so I'd just go back to that, and I don't think I'd bother with Hacker 2 because it didn't really feel like I was hacking anything. It felt like I was just tuning into video cameras. It could have, for all the difference it made, it could have been me watching the cameras while my teammates robbed a bank, because it could have been a bank robbery simulator, and I was the guy that said, the guards come in, press the red button. I didn't get any of that from this. It felt like a game with lots of stuff around it, but it just didn't present me with anything that really made me want to play it. So probably a great game, but it wasn't very satisfactory for me. And the graphics are quite nice, as an aside, looks okay, but it just tuned me off. It switched me off. I just wasn't into it. So I think you'd have to really like Hacker to really like Hacker 2 a lot.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think the comment there. There's no in. There's no. There's no onboarding. It's just, here you go.
Yeah.
And I think
Cameras.
trying to replicate what they did at the beginning of Hacker, identify the parts in this robot, had a sort of point, but then it was more of a, moving around, going to places, talking to people. There was a kind of it felt like, I recognize what I'm supposed to be doing here. Here it was like, what the hell? There's no clues. There's no help. No, it was too much for me. Over my head. I'm no hacker, that's for sure. So. Yeah, I'm sure there is a good game here, maybe, but it's not for me. Not for us. It's not for Zapped to the Past. No. Probably better than the next one, maybe, though.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know. So, Hollywood or bust?
Yes.
Graham?
Yes.
Did we go to Hollywood or did we bust?
Well, I didn't dig it, so I feel it was a big bust. In this game, you play a film star called Buster. I'm guessing that's named after Buster Keaton, or it's that kind of era of Hollywood. So, pratfalls
You're called
and
Buster,
antics.
but you look like Harold Lloyd.
Yeah, it's that same difference. That's that kind of era of Hollywood, so 1920s Hollywood, really. The idea of the game is that you wander around this film set looking for 5 Oscar statues, and when you get the 5 Oscar statues, you win the game. If you don't, and you're attacked periodically by hordes of policemen, which is kind of mysterious, but I'm guessing it's Keystone Cops type idea.
I think so, yeah.
But you'd have to have a bit of knowledge. If you came to this without knowing anything about early Hollywood, I don't know that this would bear any relevance to anything you would understand. So, other than that, there's ghosts and other things in the levels which can obviously cause you to die. If you do that, you've got to start again, because the director of the film you're in shouts cut. So there's an idea here of you being part of this film, and in this film you can do stuff, but that idea doesn't work because it's not carried through the whole film. If they'd have made it so that you were trying to make a film and you had to record a certain number of scenes and do a certain number of stunts in order to make the film successful, that would have made more sense than just running around a collectathon on these various levels, being chased by policemen throwing pies at you, collecting Oscars that really didn't. So I think this started off as one game and ended as another. I found myself periodically thrown into this kind of it was a weird sort of run and gun, shoot the policeman with custard pies thing, where halfway through I just ended up being chased by and there was a lot of sprites on the screen, so maybe technically that was quite a clever thing. I don't know. The game didn't make a lot of coherent sense. It was, someone said, let's set a game in Hollywood and film old film sets, and that's kind of as far as that conversation ever went. So they just pulled out tropes of things that they thought might be something that would have been in that kind of thing. So, Keystone Cops, custard pies, and running around a lot. Well, it need a bit more than that to really entertain anybody with this, so you don't really get a lot from that. The music, I think, is a Rob Hubbard piece for this. And I thought it was a bit jingly jangly, and it harked of the kind of Rob Hubbard music I don't like. So, we've talked about a number of games that have this kind of jingly jangly sound. I don't like them particularly. They're not terrible, but they're not what I like. And this game sort of felt like it never really went anywhere. It was just kind of weird. Graphics were okay, kind of sizable sprites that looked all right. It got very annoying very quickly. The sound was already loud as well, so kind of in your face loud, which is odd because 1920s would have been silent movies, so it would have been actually more realistic if they just made it completely silent. Or make the music sound more like the film music that came out around then, where someone was playing that kind of ding, 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 ding.
I thought that's what they were going for. I thought
that was the attempt. But they kind of, it felt a bit more like the entertainer / sort of, that kind of stuff. So in the end, I was just kind of running around being chased by police officers, throwing things at them. A lot of sprites around. Rob Hubbard, not his greatest piece. I prefer it now is entering Rob Hubbard's kind of chunky sound era. So as we'll come to know when we get towards Delta, Sanction, Knucklebusters, and other games that start to have a bit more grunt and less kind of this twiddliness. So that's the Rob Hubbard I personally prefer as opposed to this stuff. I'm not saying it's terrible music. It kind of goes with it a bit. But, it's just a bit in your face. But it's about the best thing this game had going for it, I suppose, because I didn't enjoy anything else. What about you?
No, I'm the same. I probably hated it more than you. That ghost did my head in.
Yeah, because you just kill you. Once you die, right? One hit dead.
Yeah, the one hit ghost kill is like pointless. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say too much about this because it's rubbish. The visuals and the music are all right. They work thematically for what it's going for. The problem is obviously the one life insta-death. But do you know what when you go onto it and all those cops come on after the boring intro, watching them all come onto the screen every time, and you have to survive for 1,000 frames. Do you know what game it reminded me of? It reminded me of Jailbreak.
Yes.
Of an early version of Jailbreak, which I thought, oh god, I'm just going to be running along just mowing down cops.
Yes.
It was just custard pie in them, but that thing, because Jailbreak is you running along a road, isn't it, with loads of people running about and shooting them.
It is, yeah.
So it just reminded me of that. But once you go back to the set, I don't know what it was called really, the bit where you have to climb up the ladder, you can't get anywhere near the ladder because the ghost would appear and just kill you. And it was just, I don't get this game. I don't get what it was aiming for or going for or trying to do. It's way too hard. It's punishing and it's no fun. And but rubbish and annoying is no way to go through life.
Nope, and you're quite right.
So that's what annoyed the hell out of me with this. So I didn't like it. I thought it was, even at $1.99.
Bust.
It's still, bust, massive bust. You can't, even £2, fair enough. It's £2. But if the game is unplayable, then it could give it to me for free, and I'd still say it's unplayable, and I don't like it.
Yes, I quite agree.
So, a game needs to work. And this didn't.
No. And like I said, there's a germ of an idea in there which never came off in the game at all. They just fell into berserk kind of territory, really, at one point, and I don't think they really knew what to do with it.
No, exactly. So there you go. That's Hollywood or Bust. That's our double H beginning for this part. Let's move along. To our next one, it's another cheapie. It's $1.99. This got 85%, and I'm going to imagine you hated it. But this is Collapse. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't like it. I don't know. Let's have a look. So, what is Collapse? Collapse is a cheap and annoying puzzler that goes to great lengths to put you off playing it. But if you turn the sound off, which I highly recommend you do, I thought that this was an actual, once you've got your head around what it wanted you to do, it's actually a pretty good single screen puzzler. I quite like this. But whatever you do, for your sake of your own mental health, turn the sound off. Because the sound is horrendous. It's also horrendous. But let's put all this to one side and see what we have. So the game, what you have is the game presents you with a grid of dots. Like a 10 by 10 grid or whatever it is. Some of these dots have links between them. And that's what they have. So there are they're sort of joined. So the dots some of them are joined. They can be horizontally or vertically joined. And you play a mole. None of this makes any sense, by the way. But you play a mole, and what you have to do is you have to walk over those links and turn them blue. Once they have been turned blue, you can rotate them by tapping on them, and they rotate. So you tap on them and they rotate 90 degrees from one of the points where they join, sort of thing. So they're from an anchor point, basically, and then it disappears. So if at the end of that 90-degree rotation, so if it goes flat to vertical, at the end of that touches another link that's on there, one of the chains sort of thing, then that link will then rotate. And then when that rotates to 90 degrees, if that hits another link, that will go another one. So you can see this, what you've got to do is kind of make a chain of links that will rotate and hit the next one, kind of like dominoes falling or anything where you do that sort of thing. So that's the whole point of this. And you've got to clear the screen of all these links. You have a timer to counting down, and you got to move around and do that. The mole has two states, a yellow and a red state. So in the yellow state, that is when you can turn the links to blue, and you are susceptible to gravity. So if you're up high in the grid and you walk off a platform, one of the links, you will fall down to the bottom or down to the next link. If you press the fire button, you will enter a red state. In that red state, when you're yellow as well, you can jump up and down. So you can jump through the links and like a platformer, and you can move up through the grid. When you turn into the red state, you can move horizontally and basically float. So gravity has no effect on you, but you can't affect any of the links. What you can do though is you can create new link underneath you, left or right of you, which then turn yellow by pressing the fire button again, moving up or down, and you can then come back yellow and then start to move around the grid again. So the whole point is to navigate and create links and create platforms for yourself to be able to get to some of the links where you can't get to because you've got to be yellow, and try and get rid of all the links. There are enemies moving about the grid. If you hit them, you lose 100 seconds or 100 points off the countdown timer. There are also diamonds that appear periodically. If you collect them, you get the time back. It's frantic. You have to work fast to get through this. So you've got to, what you're looking for is to create a chain reaction of links rotating to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And when you do that, when you actually make a full-on, almost, all the links go in one big go, it's really pretty satisfying. Now you can do them bit by bit, but obviously that doesn't, that doesn't work as well. The problem is just the way that this is presented. It's presented horribly. The graphics are rubbish. The sound is awful, but the central idea is actually quite decent. Now, if someone had come in on this, who could actually draw decent sprites, who had a bit of a decent visual flair to them, if someone had come in on this and given it to, someone who could do decent sound, I think you'd have a really, really good game here that would have been quite well liked. I think the problem is that presentationally it's quite bad, and it's too abrasive, that sound on, to keep playing for long. For me, this fell in the same ballpark as games like Hercules and Big Mac, the Mad Maintenance Man, in that they don't look that great, but there's a central core mechanic that's actually quite good. But presentationally, they lack. It's tricky, it's hard, it's fast, it's frantic, and if you can get past the way it looks, I think you could get a lot from this if you like single-screen puzzle games. If you don't, you probably hate it, which is fair enough, because there's a lot to hate about this. But it's a strange game because at the core, there's a decent puzzle idea here, which I quite liked. And for £2, I think, it was okay. 85%, I think the visuals, the aesthetics are not worth that high, even if you want to give it that much. I don't know. That would be my take on it. What was your take anyway?
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. It was
No, I didn't think you'd like it.
It's quite an interesting puzzler. For $1.99, it was a different take on a kind of puzzle game. I quite like the idea of having to turn the sticks blue. You unleash your Rotox, which then rotates around and gets rid of the sticks and does all of that. There was a nice idea to that. Like you say, it's let down by its graphics, which weren't great, but it had that kind of addictive gameplay. So it was a game that would initially kind of put you off, but you'd go back to it and you'd sort of figure things out and you'd start to get better at it and you'd start to do it. And it's a good little puzzle game. I thought it was presented quite nicely. It was just, as a concept of a game, and the gameplay itself and the logic of the game kind of worked maybe a tad over complex for what it was, but it worked all the same. So I did enjoy it, and I think, for people that enjoy these kind of puzzle games like this, it's it's manna from heaven. They're all going to be getting properly giddy and having to change their underpants every couple of hours, I think.
Yes, because there's 99 levels, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot to go at. For $1.99, this is genuinely a bargain. Because there's a lot worse games we've seen for $1.99 that are, there's games that are worse for full price. So this is good. It's like you say, it's let down perhaps by its graphics, but if you get past that, and it doesn't take much to get past it, once you start hopping up and down and figure out the difference between Zen when he's red and when he's yellow, and how you build the bridges and what that means and how you do that, there's actually quite a nice little strategy puzzle game in there. It's hard. It's a difficult game. I think you need to get into it, and I think that's probably where it puts people off. Is think if you don't get past and get into it within the first sort of 10 minutes and just figure the stuff out, it might be something that you never play any further because you think, I've had enough of this. I gave it a bit of legs because I wanted to sort of see where it was going to go with its premise and see if it just cocked it up royally or whether it was actually something worth giving some time to. And I've pleased to say that it's made up for its lack of budget with some really quality gameplay. So I enjoyed playing it, and I would recommend to give it a go. You don't get a lot of puzzles that are this good at this price around this time.
No,
you could have been
don't.
sat crying yourself to sleep over the fact you'd built Knight Rider. So go and take that back and say it did ready, run ready. Make sure you run a magnet over it before you do that. And then trade it in for this, because I don't think you'll go far wrong. I liked Collapse. I thought it was a very good little game. Another $1.99 little bargain, really. What's not to like about that?
Yeah. Way better than Knight Rider and Miami Vice and Hot Wheels and all these
significantly
expensive
better than the next
stuff.
game.
Yeah, it is. So Collapse is a good little fun game, but like I said, just turn the damn sound off.
Yeah, the sound stupid.
That sound is abrasive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just stupid. I just turned it off.
Yeah, indeed. I just turned the next game off.
Yeah, I wish I had.
All of it. So our next game is Arcana. We looked at the Crapvert the other week.
We did.
So, Graham, what's Arcana?
Let me tell you, right? This is, if I just describe the idea of what you're meant to do. So, because this is the one we laughed about with the stupid name. So it's got Valeriquil in it. You remember that we said it was like a headache tablet? I do remember that. Or something like that. So you've got the evil king Valeriquil. You've got a certain amount of time before the change of the autumn equinox. Doesn't matter. You've got a certain amount of time. And remember you had to get the dark clavicle, which was held in Valeriquil's castle. And
now I remember.
Arcana, yes. And, so you've got to go and do stuff and sort out, it doesn't matter really, because you're never going to get much further than that. It's an arcade game, arcade adventure-y, viewed from a side elevated angle, side-scrolling. You play Baludar, oh, God's sake, sent to complete this mission over 4 levels. Look, let's just cut to the chase, right? This is a game made by Jeff Summer. Jeff Summer's previous game that we will remember mainly for is Amazon Warrior. So let's just take it in the back of your mind, think, has this guy got a history of unoriginal product? Yes, because this is basically Staff of Carnath / Entombed / Ultimate C64 games of that type. It is a blatant rip-off of those games. So blatant, I'm surprised he got away with it. Colour scheme, the graphics, the way it looks, the kind of quasi 3D, the blocky style, the ear bleeding effects, sound effects, the title screen, simplicity, the whole thing is a rip-off. Like Amazon Warrior was a rip-off of another game, and it has annoyed me because this is there's no reason why you should be doing this. If you can't make original games, Jeff, then just quit. Don't waste people's money and time with this crap. And the problem is, if you'd have fixed the problems, Jeff, of those games that you've ripped off blatantly, then I might be more forgiving, but you haven't. You've just inherited the problems of those games. Crazy respawning enemies that attack you at every opportunity. Inability to really defend yourself. Stupid. If you are going to reproduce something that's crap, don't just make it more crap, all right? And that's what happens here. So I played this, felt I could immediately was looking at a game that had been blatantly copied from somebody else, which is exactly how I felt when we looked at Amazon Warrior. This is just a rip-off. It's just a blatant copyright infringed rip-off that's clearly, I think if you looked at the code side by side, I think you'd have had trouble identifying whose was what code. I'm surprised he got away with it with Amazon Warrior and the way he ripped off Forbidden Forest. So this is another version, and apparently there's a bit of a history of it with this particular person. He's known for it. If you look at a bit of history of the games that he's created, they're all rip-off of the games. So he's just carbon copying, cut and pasting somebody else's game idea, game code and everything else. Well, you made a mistake here, Jeff, because one, this is a shit game that you've made because it was a shit game before. So, you've just photocopied a shit. and if you take a shit and photocopy it, it's a picture of a shit. It's no different. It's just a shit. So you've just made a shit. And I hated this game. I don't think if I would have been Zapped, and they should have had the courage of their conviction, this clown shoe should have been called out for the crap he was creating, because this is ripping off other people's code, and it's wrong. It's wrong now. If I went out and ripped off a game that somebody else had made and just pushed it out on my own, it would have been a cease and desist before I could even blink. This should not be allowed to happen. And it certainly shouldn't have been published by this company and put out there. I think it's a travesty. The fact that it's so blatant is what is unbelievable. And it annoyed me because, remember when we talked about Amazon Warrior, you were annoyed, shakingly angry about how crap Amazon Warrior was because it was ripping off another game and doing everything wrong in the process. Well, this is exactly the same deal. Same guy, same deal, crap. As soon as I got 3 minutes into the game, I was like, I'm not giving you my time because this is wrong what you've done. This is wrong. Get lost, Arcana. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm exactly 100% the same. I put, is this an ultimate game? No, it's our old pal Jeff Sumner, Mr. I Can Do Forbidden Forest Aztec Warrior.
Yep.
Says I don't like the ultimate games. I don't like this knockoff version. It's not like and I even noted, like you did, sort of thing. It's not like he's even looked at what worked and what didn't work about them. This is terrible for all the things we said about, for all the things we said about Amazon Warrior. It's shameless. It's shameless to how much of a rip-off this is.
It's shocking.
Because when it started, when I first was looking through the games and starting, I was like, hang on a minute, is this an Ultimate game? Is this what? Is this by the people who did the Ultimate? Then I looked to it was by, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, the look, the visuals, the style of the sprites, and as you said, we said at the time, if you were going to look at the Ultimate games, there are things you'd look at them and go, you know what, that's just annoying. We could take that out, and this could actually be quite interesting and quite good if we did something else with it. But they've just gone, no, we've got to keep that in. So there's just no thought about this. It's rubbish. I mean, the graphics they look okay because they look like Ultimate games, but because they were always okay. But it just looks like them, and it's just a shameless rip-off, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. I don't know, 45%. Yeah, is generous because I think that
it's not his game.
You've got to say what it is, and you should have said that this is, an utter. I mean, they mentioned him in some of the comments, but yeah, a bad thing, and stupid as well. Stupid game. I played it to a point. I kept going into just dead ends and couldn't get anywhere anyway. So it didn't even feel particularly well designed.
No.
I mean, why have I couldn't find anything. I got to a room where there was like two ghosts that just kept killing me, and it was just rubbish. I just hated it.
Yeah, published by Virgin Games. This.
I know it was. Yeah, Virgin. But we looked at, like I said, the Crapvert was bad. We didn't. I didn't, because I'd never heard of it. I wasn't aware of it, so it came as a bit of a shock. And it gave me more of a shock that he was like, oh, this is my next knockoff. So a bad thing. We don't like Arcana. We don't like the thinking behind it.
No, I've had, and just as as you have, we've taught video games. You still teach video game design. We teach these things, and if a student had submitted that, I would have been calling them out for plagiarism.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If a student
had submitted that, I'd say, "Excuse me, but this isn't your work. This isn't your work. This is the equivalent of somebody writing an essay and then just copying someone else's essay the next year and going, here's my essay. It's not your work. You didn't do this. You didn't invent that format. You didn't invent the gameplay. You did nothing but rip off someone else and make a bad version of it. Shame on you. Shame on you for doing that. It's wrong. Yeah. It's wrong. It should be erased from time and space. In fact, I'm erasing it right now using my powerful time erasure system. Oh no!
Another one.
I've erased the word arcade.
Oh no!
Okay. Things are going to be a bit different when we talk about the old, I don't know what you call them now. We need to insert a new word for them.
What have you done?
Digibox games. There we go.
Whew. The timeline is saved.
Thank God for that.
The future is taking root in the present.
It is done. Thank God for that. So nobody will be missing anything to do with those Digibox games that are all in the Cleethorpes. So
I love Digibox games.
Yeah, good old Dragon's Lair was one of the great Digibox games. Anyway,
I used to spend so much time down the Digibox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, playing
down the Digibox game place.
The shopping Digibox. Yeah, same. Yeah.
I do like a good Digibox game adventure.
Oh, it's too many words. Going back in time and changing now.
What have you done? For this small boy.
Actually, I could put any word I want in there. Crab.
Oh, you spend so much time down at the Crab.
Yeah, nip down Cleethorpes, play a few crabs. Brilliant.
Oh dear, right. Our last game, actually, ironically, sort of sideways, tangentially, maybe linked to our last.
Yes, there is a bit of that in there.
Because it's the cover game, we've left it to last. It is Beyond the Forbidden Forest. Okay, so this is the sequel to, I think it was pretty much our game of episode 0, wasn't it? We agreed on.
Yeah, we liked it.
Or one of them, or in that first part 1 or whatever, when we looked at it.
We liked the thematics, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I've always been a big fan of Forbidden Forest. And Mr. Paul Norman, has come along and done a sequel, finally, after 2 or 3 years. He's done other games in between, like Monster Trivia and Caverns of Carnath, and what was that other thing? He did some other stuff as well. Oh, but he's done Super Huey.
Yeah.
And crazy stuff. But now he's gone back to his Forbidden Forest, and he's gone beyond. So now we are Beyond the Forbidden Forest. And he's, obviously learnt a few technical skills between that time and now. He's up the technical ante. It still looks and plays like Forbidden Forest. The sprites a bit It's still chunky, but it looks a bit more human-like. And you've now got the ability to move in and out of the screen, kind of like in proper 3D. So you can run into the depths of the forest and back out. The enemies that beset you exist on those planes as well, so you need to do that. You can fire arrows in full 3D, sort of in, out of the screen, in sort of 8 directions. But, it still looks like Forbidden Forest. It's just a little bit cleaner and a little bit more well designed in graphical sense. So, but if you know what Forbidden Forest looks like, you'll probably know what to expect here. It's so what this is it's side-scrolling, parallax, quite a deep parallax layers. There's quite a lot going on.
Yeah.
Parallax layers of forest, which you can run in and out of, and you scroll left and right. And you play an archer. And all you have is your bow and arrow, and so you have to take down... Essentially, you've got to take down a single enemy at a time and progress through the forest to kill the Demogorgon, who lives in a big cave. So the enemies you have to take down, you've got a giant scorpion, a giant worm, a giant dragonfly, and then a giant lizard. And you take them out in the forest. So this is the forest bit. Okay, so this is in the Forbidden Forest. Killing each one of these rewards you with a golden arrow. And this is bestowed upon you in a mystical sort of ceremony. After killing each enemy, a sort of glowing light appears and you get this arrow. And did you notice, by the way, that the end part of the tune when you get an arrow is very, very reminiscent of Duran Duran's Wild Boy?
Yes, I thought that, yeah.
Good. It wasn't just me then. So you're killing them and you get a personal invite to the caves where the Demogorgon lives. So it's time to take out the bats in the caves. Then you have to kill the 4-headed Hydra. And then you're on to the Demogorgon itself. You kill the Demogorgon and it's praise the sun. Well done. You've completed this. So this doesn't deviate too much because Forbidden Forest was the same. 7 monsters. The only reason is it's beyond the Forbidden Forest because you go into a cave.
Yeah.
So really you're going beyond it, I guess. It doesn't deviate too much from Forbidden Forest. And I mean, essentially, these two games are just a boss rush of a game wrapped up in an atmosphere of, you've got really good music. It's quite unusual and quite unlike a lot of other stuff. Like an atmosphere of like sort of horror and doom and sort of
gore.
Unusual gore. Yeah, there's lots of gore. And there's like some unusual sort of feeling that you don't really get with these 8-bit games. Further down the line, something like Shadow of the Colossus will do similar things to this. Because that's essentially a boss rush game where you go around this big environment and kill 16 creatures, same sort of thing. Obviously, that has much fancier pants, but this really, this Forbidden Forest and Beyond Forbidden Forest, I think I'm going to put Amazon Warrior to one side because we don't mention that in the same breath as these. These are a relatively unique pair of games. There's not much else like these. In tone, in the way they play, in the visual styling, in anything about that. They're very hard games and they're quite punishing and you will die a lot because the controls are a bit weird because the controls in this, you run left and right, up and down moves you in and out of the screen. Holding down the fire button moves raster bars on the left and right of the screen, and this is the height at which your arrow will fire. You then move, once you have this height at the right thing, so they move up and down, holding down the fire button, you move a joystick to fire in one of the 8 directions. The raster bars stop, and then you let go of the fire button, and that's the direction your arrow goes in to try and shoot stuff. It's quite hard and tricky to line up your shots to actually shoot anything. But if you can get around that, if you can get your hang of that, and if you dig weird boss rush horror games that are unlike anything else back in the 8-bit time, you probably dig this. I really like these games. I think, though, personally, I think I prefer the first one to this one. I did like this, and I do like this, and I get that it's bigger and better, but kind of what we said with some of the games, it feels like, evolution towards Forbidden Forest is, unusual. There's nothing like it at the time. This is more Forbidden Forest with technical chops up to bit over the 2-3 years in the meantime. And that's no bad thing. It's just a thing. It is what it is. So I probably enjoyed my time more going back to Forbidden Forest than I did with this, but I still really enjoyed this, and I still think this is very good. It got 91%. I think that's bang on, but I don't know if this will be everyone's cup of tea because it is an unusual and unique game for the time, but it's certainly one that I get a lot from. What about you, Graham? Did you enjoy it?
Yes and no. There was a kind of a dual-edged sword for me. So these Forbidden Forest games are, you either like them and you like the style of them, and the Paul Norman style is very unique to Paul Norman, but you either like them or you don't. And I kind of sort of let Forbidden Forest kind of get away with it a bit. It's atmospheric and it's nice. So Beyond the Forbidden Forest features this kind of, obviously this, what they class as 4-dimensional gameplay, but you can just, go further into the screen and not. And there's some nice ideas, and the graphics are quite nice, and the way it scrolls and the way it controls is all kind of cool. It all feels a little bit under polished for me. It's a little bit sort of pokey and a bit car booty and a bit, I don't know, there's just something about it that the other games have a bit more polish that I think I prefer. Just like the idea of when you hold your fire button down and your elevation bars just little raster bars going up the side of the border, and don't get me wrong, it works and it's functional. I just don't know if it kind of works for me. So one half of me thinks this is quite a unique style of gaming and it's very, very unique to Paul Norman, and that's no bad thing because it's not bad. The other side of me thinks it feels a bit underfinished and a bit underpolished and a bit hokey, but it does have a good atmosphere and the sprites aren't overly bad. I think there's space for this game without a doubt in the sort of ecosphere of the Commodore 64 games, and it's certainly finished and polished to a degree that many of the games we've played for this episode are not. So in that respect, at least it's a full, complete game that works start to finish. It doesn't have all of the weird problems and issues of much more expensively licensed games that should have known better. So I think what it does do is provide you with more Forbidden Forest, hence the Beyond part, and I think it does exactly what it sets out to do. And so you can play that and go through that, and that's quite quite a likable thing to have. In at the end of the series of games we've played that have not fulfilled even the slightest part of the potential and certainly have ripped people off, this game at least doesn't do those things. It is what it is. You can play it and go through it, and it is quite funny when you die in the gory ways and stuff like that. There's a humour to these games. So it's an atmospheric, nice graphics. The scrolling's quite good. They are kind of, you just got to, you got to go with it. If you either like Paul Norman style graphics or you don't. If you do and you like the scrolling, you can get into it. I think you'll find a lot of fun in here. If you don't like it, well, you just, you're not going to necessarily get out of it. But does that mean you should rush out and buy Knight Rider or any of the other crappy games that we've looked at? Well, no. This is one of the better and stronger games from this issue of Zap by a long way. And that tells you something because it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than unfinished in my book. So I have a fun relationship with the Beyond the Forbidden Forest games. They're not quite my cup of tea, but I totally appreciate that they are other people's cup of tea, and at least the guy makes a polished, finished game when he sets out to do that, which he has all the way through from Forbidden Forest and beyond. So he does what he sets out to do. Many of these other rip-off merchants do not. So hats off to our friend Mr. Norman there for doing a decent job on the game. Not my cup of tea, but I still think it's pretty cool nonetheless.
Yeah, I completely understand all that. They are. I don't want to say, I don't use the term Marmite games, but they're such an unusual thing that there's not much else like them. And I think that's
they're unique.
That's to their credit and also to their detriment.
I agree.
It's not like I quite like arcade adventures, so Equinox is okay, and Nosy Yesod is okay because they're in my ballpark. These are like, well, what are they like? I'm like, they're not like anything.
No.
They're not really much like anything. They are single enemy takedown things where you get killed. So, yeah, they're a unique experience. And but like I said, I think in my heart of hearts, I think I prefer the original, but I still really like this one. It's a very, very close second. There we go. That's Beyond Forbidden Forest, and that's all our games for this week. Wow, we did a lot of games again.
We did.
So many games.
Big
so many games at the moment. So let's move on because we've still got more Crapverts. There was a plethora
there is
this month. So if you care to scroll your screen down to Beyond the Headbone.
I've seen it.
To our first one, which is Mumble's Super Spy.
Oh, dear. Just why?
Don't know. It's Databyte. Databyte obviously had a lot of games coming out, so it's got our Databyte logo, which we like, but the rest of it is just a shambolic awfulness.
Yeah, I mean, is he a midget, James Bond?
I don't know.
Is that because he is in that drawing? He's a midget. Because look at the size of the gun compared to him.
I know.
That actually, if you scaled that according to his actual size of that gun, either the gun is massive or he is about 4 inches high.
It's as long as his arm. He's like Weng Weng.
He's proper Weng Weng, and he's got looking at that, he's got no Weng Weng either. He must get them suits made specially. That's what I'm thinking, because that is a kid's suit at best.
So this is Mumble's Super Spy. So what we've got here is the word Mumbles across the top in some big red letters.
That font is very borrowed from the Untouchables.
Yes, very much so, yeah. Then underneath it is Super Spy in script. And then around the edges is some inexplicable... geometric building
pattern. Is it meant to be city?
Pattern?
Is it meant to be a cityscape or something? Because in the screen grab, there's a city in the background. I think it's meant to be the top of the city.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be the city.
But it's
not. So then in the centre is a blue box. with where the super spy is, and then there's this Mumbles. I think it's supposed to be a doorway or something, but then there's this Mumbles character, and behind him a damsel,
Femme fatale,
a chesty femme fatale, shall we say? And then we have this write-up which says your mission is to find Beldar. Is that
Beldar,
the mad scientist? And destroy his laboratory before he destroys the world. The only clue you have is that Beldar was last seen entering the sewer system of the city. But be careful, he has an army of gangsters and has wired the underground with control panels, sliding doors, laser rockets, bombs, and many other hazards. Good luck on what could be your most dangerous mission yet. So what does this have to do with Mumbles?
Yeah, true. And more importantly, well, not more importantly, as importantly, just want to say that control panels and sliding doors aren't hazards. They're just entryways and ways of controlling entry. Laser rockets,
true.
bombs, and things are actual hazards if that's the intention. But, a sliding door is no more a hazard than an ordinary door unless you throw it at somebody, I suppose. But yeah, you're right. What's Mumbles got? Who is he? Is that Mumbles, the guy? Is he Mumbles the spy? Why is he Mumbles? Why does he mumble?
I don't know.
No, maybe
Honestly, it's that thing you were saying. It's like up above. What's his face? Panama Joe from last week. It's like we're supposed to have some affinity with Mumbles. Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't. It looks like if he was going to be in a film, he'd be played by Dustin Hoffman.
He would, yeah. And the expressions on their faces are stupid. So he's got kind of I've just stood on an egg kind of face, and she's got kind of she's nonplussed about anything. She's like, not
what
bothered.
am I doing here?
Yeah,
why have I been drawn here? Why have I been drawn here?
Should they have used a blue background when she's in a blue dress? I don't probably think they should have.
The screenshots are so tiny.
Why should he got one leg?
I don't know.
She's actually got one leg and one arm, and she's got weird sort of claw hands. So, she's clearly going to stab him with her claw fingers. It's weird.
Yeah, and he's only got 3 fingers.
Yes, he has. And he's got little tiny thumbs. So tiny.
Yes. Yeah. Right, but Databyte continue to give us some quality Crapverts. With the next couple. Because on one page we have Adam Caveman and Polar Pierre. Now, I can only presume that they've gone through this thing about we just want games that are based around a person.
Yes.
Whether it's what's his name? Panama Joe, Mumbles the Super Spy, Adam the Caveman, or Polar Pierre. They've not even bothered to call him Colin Caveman or Clive Caveman and alliterate it. So
terrible.
They're really bad, aren't they?
Yes. I mean, they've gone for that kind of quirky, cartoony look. But there's just stuff that doesn't work. You can't give them cute, cartoony eyes and then give them the shoulders and arms of a roided-up bodybuilder, let alone the three-toed foot of a hobbit with no knees. It's all kinds of wrong. So you might be cute in face, but you've got a body dysmorphia going on that's horrific and needs hospital treatment. And then the text to the left of that is, the mountains are waiting to claim you. It sounds dark and bleak. And
well, you've got to go rescue his wife from the clutches of the hostile mountain men.
Made me laugh. The hostile mountain men. Those bloody mountain men. Why are they always hostile? Just be nice.
Well, the thing is, the clutches of the hostile mountain men, but she is well guarded, and the desert is crawling with mighty beasts. I thought she was in the mountain.
Well, I was expecting a list there as well. Crawling with mighty beasts, prehistoric birds roam amongst us. So it's just mighty beasts. That's what we're calling them all.
Rugged, savage mountain men will try to kill you as you enter the Deadlands. There's no turning back from this nightmare journey. See, all this is quite bleak. Yep. And that looks cartoony.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So big, happy, smiley face, but angry eyes on that pterodactyl thing, that pterosaur, whatever that is. Dragon, because it's essentially a dragon, isn't it, that? And why are its eyes there like that? Why does it have eyebrows? Why do that? If you're gonna, don't put eyebrows on things. It doesn't need them. You don't need that anyway. Why am I even debating the stupidity of that?
Who knows? And then Polar Pierre
it describes it as an arcade strategy spectacular. I don't think it is, but we'll probably end up playing it at some point. Polar Pierre, on the other hand, goodness me, just God, no. I'm guessing that these artists and people that is Ron Rosen famous? Is Art Huff famous at graphics?
I have no idea. Maybe.
So, again, these are games I've never come across in all of my time on the Commodore 64 ever.
No, never
and I am guessing that they look to me like crappy variants of the same platform logic. So, different graphics, same engine kind of thing.
Yeah, probably.
And Polar Pierre, guess what? It's a skiing game, but it doesn't look... He's got skis on, and he's at a ski resort, but the screen grab doesn't look like there's a lot of skiing going on. So, I don't know. You've got... But it's the same logic, exactly, look. Guide Pierre or his cousin Jacques through an icy obstacle course, racing through ski jumps, mystery chalets, lifts, electro generators, shooting snowballs, springboards, stompers, and thunder. and lightning. You could just substitute that text and put it into the Adam Caveman.
Yep.
Climb the levels, avoiding the insert things that sound kind of that thematic. Just crappy crap.
Yeah, Databyte providing some good crap.
This is like the revenge of Databyte, isn't it? It's bloody hell.
It is, but our last one's from Beyond.
Oh, goodness me, no.
So this is for our last one is the advert for Dante's Inferno. And what's going on with that devil's mouth?
Yeah, I think they've tried to go for kind of creepy, spooky. Just by the way, that isn't how the devil is portrayed in Dante's Inferno at all. So no. So if this game is based on Dante Alighieri's novel, famous Divine Comedy,
which it is, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, and this is the one with Fred Gray's great music, and we'll end up playing this, and it's actually quite a strange game. But it will. Yeah. I think when we play it, I'm just going to save it when we play it, but it will look exactly like another game that you'll see. But it's that one. It's just basically the same thing. But this advert's stupid, isn't it? So why is he stuck is it a pinky sticking out, that devil, or is it just the way they've drawn it? Because it looks like he's got a little finger sticking out on the hand where he's grabbed the person, which I'm guessing is.
I think it looks like it, but I think it's just his neck wing.
It's his neck wing, because his horns, his head is really weirdly shaped. He's got, I don't know, what is that? It's like side, what is that? What is his head? They're not ears, are they? What is it? It's just,
I don't know, the side bulb.
If somebody said to you, draw me the devil, why would you make it so his head looked like a giant fruit? You just put horns on a person and say, there you go, a horny person, no horns, devil, there you go. And he's got the wing. The wings look, the thematic, the wings look good, the shading's there, the structure is kind of there. I don't know why there's snow on the ground. I don't get that at all, but it doesn't matter.
Why there's these heads poking through the ground?
Yeah, well, that part I kind of get because of the whole Dante's Inferno thing. That does sort of tie into it, but without going into the complexity of Dante's Inferno and stuff like that. It depends which level of hell he's on and what he's talking about. But more importantly, this game doesn't really sell any of that. And there's such easy imagery to choose from for a game called Dante's Inferno that you wouldn't even need to have the devil in it, really. If you're going to have the words Dante's Inferno on it, you don't need that. You could have alluded to that. And a subtle approach to this would have been better than just having a giant two-horned fruit stuck in the middle of the screen. Grabbing a person, because you have no idea whether that's Dante or whether that's Virgil or anybody else that's in that. Really, really cool. I love Dante's Inferno as a book. So for me, it's just they clearly had an idea, and somebody was like, "It's Dante's Inferno. It's all devil and that in it." So that's why you get fire, devil. No, so it's Dante's in hell, or so it's hell. Oh, that's fire, devil. But it doesn't explain whether they've made him look like a vampiric orange. So, but that's I just don't get it. I don't get why you would do that. But it's a Beyond game, isn't it? Denton designs and everything. So
yeah, I remember it not being that particularly great. I don't like the mix of fonts as well for Dante's Inferno.
The music's great for Dante's Inferno, and that's the one thing I'm looking forward to because it's got such a good vibe and soundtrack for the game, which we'll discuss when we play the game. That advert it's another one I'm going to redo. I'll redo that. I'll redo the Crapvert for that because that's such a travesty. You don't need to do any of that. You could just have the words Dante's Inferno in the right font, not that kind of, because that's the Towering Inferno writing. The Dante, take that off Towering. Yeah. That's Towering Inferno they've done there. Very different idea.
That's what I was reminded of. Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Towering Inferno. Right. It's not Dante's Inferno. The Dante's font, the Dante bit is nice. The Inferno part's from another thing, but there you go.
All right, there we go. That's our Crapverts. Let's round up. We got our chart. So this is from Commodore user. So in at number 10, new is Mission Elevator, which was okay.
Yeah, we like
that. Up to number 9 is Green Beret.
That's a good one.
Down to number 8 is Miami Vice.
Get lost.
Up to number 7 is Knight Rider.
No, it's not.
Down to number 6 is Parallax. Down to 5 is Leaderboard. One above it is Hole in One.
Crazy.
Down to number 4. Up to number 3 is Speed King. Oh, it's the Mastertronic re-release. It's the Mastertronic re-release.
Cheap
budget
and nasty.
one. Down to number 2 is Ghost and Goblins.
Makes sense.
Up to number 1 is Dragon's Lair.
Yeah, just proving, if anything needs to be proved, that the logic of people buying coin-up conversions still exists with that 1-2 there. So.
Yeah.
And neither of those two being as complete as the Green Beret, which is further down the list. But there you go.
No, absolutely. No, there we go. So, what have we got? Do you want to pick some games from issue 18?
Yeah, I suppose we should, shouldn't we?
I'm lost.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah. Go on then, what do you want to pick? What do you want to put in?
Well, this isn't what you call a classic selection, is it? So I think I'd have to put Parallax in, of course.
I think, yes, Parallax would have to go in.
Parallax, Druid, and Supercycle for me, I think.
Yes, I think those are the three I would go with as well. I think when all comes down to it.
Yeah, and also Ran might be for Beyond the Forbidden Forest, but as a kind of added bonus one. But I'm not a big fan of that. But you might want to put that one in. But
I think I probably enjoyed my time more with Supercycle, Druid, and Parallax.
Yeah, those three are a good triangle.
And if only we didn't have the lickers, then Iridis Alpha would be in there.
Yes.
But I can't get past them. So
Yes, I agree.
I'm very sorry. That's it. There we go. We've got our games for that. So what we got coming up next month, issue 19, features games like Alley Cat, Asterix and the Magic Cauldron, Dan Dare, Deactivators, Fungus, It's Cleanup Time.
That doesn't sound good.
Ugh, doesn't sound good at all. Jack the Nipper, Jeep Command, Miami Dice, Mind Pursuit. We've got Pursuit off because we've got Mind Pursuit and Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, no.
Ninja.
Oh, that's
Nomad.
the Mastertronic one. I thought we reviewed Nomad.
No, we haven't.
No, Nomad we haven't. Oh, God, that's that crappy ocean robot
Nomad.
thing.
Yeah, like Equinox.
Yeah.
Room 10, Sanction, Sinbad, Strike Force, Horrier.
First big Thalamus game.
Yeah, the first release, yeah. Velocipede 2 and World Games.
Whoa, okay. We're getting into heavy territory there because World Games is a really good game.
It is. So some crackers there. That's to look forward to in the next couple of episodes. So yeah, loads to look forward to. So that's always good. I think that's about us done for this one, isn't it?
That's it. We have reached the end of the line.
We have. So as always, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Ruddings.
And we have been Zapped to the Past. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.